dawn of your new history. Yeah, yeah. In the promise of your new tomorrow. I can see that it's you without me. Well, so get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. So get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. So get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. Get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. I'm right here. Get up, get on with it. 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 Get on. Get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. Just get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. Get it over with, get it over with, you know I'm right here. Oh. So get it over. And if you were to go, I'd be alright. We'd sing one more sad song and say goodnight. I'd let the morning wake me alone and take the next train far from my home. And when it's my time coming, I'll gladly go. I won't hold too tight to things I'll never know. I won't let the fear of the darkness cloud my mind. Won't let a lifetime of living keep me blind. And if it's all that she wrote, then she done good. No matter what life it was you led, well, it's the one you should. And if the time bell rings, let it ring out loud. You made it this far, you ought to be proud. And if you feel like you must be much more than a flash, if you feel like all you said and all you did should last, if you feel this can't be the start and the end of you, well, I assure you, brother and sister, I feel it too. And if it's all that she wrote, then she done good. No matter what life it was you led, well, it's the one you should. And if the time bell rings, let it ring out loud. You made it this far, you ought to be proud. You made it this far, you ought to be proud. Hey, ooh, oh, Thank you. That song was called You Ought to Be Proud. This next song is called All Your Cash. Frightened of the headwinds and scared to go home, tangled up in daydreams and tied to the phone. But it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Left out like a plaything that's lost all of its fluff, tired of the old things and all of the new stuff. But it's alright, it's alright, yeah, it's alright. So you gotta let go of all of your baggage, and you gotta hang on before you include one. They best be heaven sent, 'cause they'll tell you a new one if you ain't vigilant. But it's their right, it's their right, yeah, it's their right. Oh, the beaches have their way, staying out the fray, but they don't have no fun running from the sun and playing nice. They're playing nice, yeah, they're playing nice. So you gotta be weary of every adage, and you gotta be stealth with your stash. Oh, fade away and flail, forgotten, dark and deep, the rock bottom. gotta let go of all of your baggage, and you gotta hang on to all your cash, and you gotta be weary of every adage. Ooh. And you gotta be stealth with your stash. So now you found your way back in. I guess I should have guessed you got an eye for detail. You know I never was that good at guarding my front gate, but you got the key that fits inside the lock. Oh my, oh my, oh my sweet changing heart. You say it's like an easy chair. You never have to rush, you never have to worry. Yeah, you never have to try your hair. You never have to push, you never have to float far from the dark. Oh my, oh my, oh my sweet changing heart. Changing heart. Oh, my sweet changing heart. All right now. Yeah, yeah. Stay this way. Don't ever change, I beseech you. Keep it tight, keep it out of sight. Baby, we'll be alright. We're gonna make it. We're gonna survive. Yes, now it's just the way it was, and just the way it is, and just the way it will be. Yeah, when I hear it said like that, you know I must admit that all the words keep on escaping me. Oh my, oh my, oh my sweet changing heart. Oh yeah, oh my sweet changing heart. Sweet changing heart. Ooh, my sweet changing heart. Yeah, my sweet changing heart. Oh, my sweet changing heart. Thank you, thank you. I think I need a pick for this one. Well, you could burn me up with evil eyes, and you know I'm gonna stick by you. Well, you could cut me down and tell me lies, and you know I'll still be true. 'Cause in a cold and lonely world like this, there's a lot of things you can't predict. And when you spent your last 2 dimes and trouble's trailing close behind, you'll find I'm gonna be there too. Yeah, well, you could turn your back and leave me cold, and you know I'm gonna stick by you. Leave me high and dry until I'm gray and old, and you know I'll still be true. 'Cause in times like these, when the future's bleak and tomorrow might find you out on the street, when you think you've lost the final game and you ain't got nothing left to your name, well, think again. You still got me. Yeah, 'cause I'm gonna stick by you, for better or worse, that's what I'm gonna do. And thick or thin, baby, lose or win, no matter what tomorrow brings, you know, gonna stick by you. Yeah, well, you could tell me that you're through with me, and you know I'm gonna stick by you. Say I'm the last guy that you'd ever see, and you know I'll still be true. 'Cause when the last sunset has come and gone, and all our lives are said and done, when all the dreams we tried to see have broken out and flown off free, you'll see you'll still be in love with me. Yeah, 'cause I'm gonna stick by you, for better or worse, that's what I'm gonna do. And thick or thin, baby, lose or win, no matter what tomorrow brings, you know, I'm gonna stick by you. I'm gonna stick by you. I'm gonna stick by you. You know I'm gonna stick by you. Thank you. Play another song for you here. This one's called Swim. Swim to the light, it only gets deeper. Swim on in spite of everything else. Long is the fight and the loser's the weeper. Swim past the night and the strong are the swells. Swim, swim, swim. Swim past the pride that's too hard to swallow. Swim through the night and everything else. Swim on and on, the others will follow. Swim past the fright and the tolling of bells. Swim, swim, swim. We're just trying to reach each other, trying to reach another. We're just trying to reach each other, trying to reach another. Swim though your hope is all but depleted. Swim though you know you can never return. Your spirit is broken, your army's defeated. Swim though you know there is nothing to learn. Swim, 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 swim. Just trying to reach each other, trying to reach another. We're just trying to reach each other, trying to reach another. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to play one more song for you. Let's do this one. When it first hit me at 14, I did not see it coming. So I had no time to bob and weave away. Yeah. Had the backing track to the slack-jawed face I was fronting. Earbuds in, Lizard King singing, I'm your backdoor man. Well, take it easy, baby. You worry too much. You got so much time, more than mine, and everything you strive to find, you're gonna have to leave behind. Your list of words underlined, not a single one defined. A steady, slow, and rolling bell is tolling as your mortal coil unwinds. But ain't it beautiful? Ain't it sad? Ain't it good to lose what you never had? Ain't it dark and still before the dawn? Ain't the night lost in love at first sight with the light of the morning? Yeah. Well, the only dream that I had was the one I woke up from, and the highlights play every day on the back of my eyes. Oh, young and dumb, here I come like a one-bullet gun in a shootout. Just one shot's all I got, not a lot, but it ought to suffice. But take it easy, baby. You worry too much. You got so much time, more than mine, and everything you strive to find, you're gonna have to leave behind. Your list of words underlined, not a single one defined. A steady, slow, and rolling bell is tolling as your little coil unwinds. Ain't it beautiful? Ain't it sad? Ain't it good to lose what you never had? Ain't it dark and still before the dawn? Ain't the night lost in love at first sight with the light of the morning. Ain't the night lost in love at first sight with the light of the morning. One more. All right, one more. All right, let's do it then. Encore. Okay, cool. How about, I did have another one lined up. Oh, let's do this one. Well, down where they lost the way to go, I found you there, asleep, laid up in tattered calico. You were alone, they all had gone. You lost your will to speak. I lost your final battle, lost your holy dream. Things are exactly as they seem. Well, me, I'm under all those bluest skies, the hearts I knew I'd break. All of the tiny little lies I knew I'd make when I forsook the oath I took. They made me take it. I lost my baby Jesus, lost my Holy Ghost, but it's the Father I miss most. Dark faces darker still, their eyes, their souls have gone to sleep, dreaming their wide open sky would soon turn back to blue from black. The whole thing smacks of double cross. Now those baby rattles no one's gonna shake. You had your chance, you didn't take it. You didn't take it. Oh, ooh, ooh. Thank you.
This great resignation or the great reshuffle isn't losing steam anytime soon.
There are more jobs available now than ever before.
Businesses are desperate to hire. They're desperate to fill all these open positions.
Businesses who are scrambling to try and get workers, they're going to still be scrambling into 2022.
How can companies retain employees?
We want them to develop. We want them to have clear career paths.
You have to hire the people in the spots where you're hiring in half the time.
Today's top talent need to see the path if we expect them to stay.
To have the space to learn new skills, to explore new areas.
How are you balancing how you're hiring more quickly and be really effective and efficient with fairness?
in 5 years, the industry will drastically change. There are two common threads which will run definitely: personalization and automation.
The ability for us to free up time within the HR function so that we could be more human again.
Find people faster, fill jobs faster with the right skill sets and the right experiences that they need. Translate it to the business leaders, be more productive, innovate new products.
How do you find people fast for the higher quality using technology?
How we build systems and tools that are light touch, high user experience, and data rich.
Really bring those tools to our recruiters to maximize their daily work.
These companies will get the great talent.
Keep the human in the loop. It's meant to augment the human, not replace them.
When it's really, really good, it blends in. You don't see it. You don't have to know about it.
We don't really layer it in one single spot. We think about this from end-to-end experience throughout the talent life cycle.
Welcome everyone, and welcome again to Phenom's AI Day. Really pleased to have you. My name is JD. I have the pleasure of working on the marketing team. Today you're in for a treat. It is all about AI, and it's about how AI is impacting our industry. We've had teams working around the clock for weeks to prepare for today, and it's something we're really proud of. But in a second, I'm going to introduce you to our co-founder and CEO, Mahe Bayireddi, and he's going to share with us how we even arrived at today and what it's really about. So a quick thank you for taking the time to join us. The last 2 years have been tremendous change, evolution, transformation, and impact to everyone in the world, including our HR industry. And so when I say thank you to everyone, who's really here today? Who's joining us virtually? Who's joining us in this broadcast studio? We're talking about talent acquisition, talent management, HR practitioners, leaders, CHROs, VPs of talent acquisition and talent management, specifically recruiters, sourcers, talent marketers, anyone involved in human resources. That's who everyone is, and that's who's here today. And that's who we're here speaking with, and presenting to, and educating. I also want to say a thank you and welcome to media, press, analysts, and AI enthusiasts. So, Mahe, would you like to join us?
Thank you. Thank you for all of you to come online. Right now, these days, everything is online, so which is really cool. So, when we started Phenom 10 years back, we always thought about experience as the most relevant thing, what we need to do. And if you really look at today, underneath experience, there are a couple of most important key themes you have to run. You have to personalize, you have to automate, you have to give insights to the people for what they're really looking for. And that all is possible only if you use AI in an extensive format. For the last 10 years, we have used AI in every spot. But what we thought, a couple of months back, we saw Tesla AI Day. And we thought, like, why can't we really show the whole HR ecosystem, what AI means to them, how they can use it, how that can be different than they have ever used it. After the COVID, things have changed drastically. So we thought, like, we can really be all together, be part of this journey, and really look at, like, what AI can do for you and deliver phenomenal experiences for the people who are involved throughout the talent life cycle. That was the most important notion what we really think about.
Yeah, and we're live. We've talked about this, promoted this as broadcasting live. We are in fact broadcasting live. I hope everyone appreciates that. And what you're going to experience today is many presenters who were able to travel and make it to this studio of ours. And you're also going to hear from speakers around the world who were not able to either join us in person live or be here. So we have very little recorded sessions at all. Almost every speaker's live, so we're very proud of that as well. And with that said, Mahe, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, there is one thing which you all have to think about. These kinds of things really to put together to really give you the glimpse into what's happening in the back end. So this particular show will be a bit different than what you have seen because it really gives you an exposure towards the AI at a different level. You really learn which models to use at what spot, when to not to use them. But it's not like super technical, but it has the depth and the breadth of how to use through experience. So we did all this for only one reason. That is to help 1 billion people find the right job. That's the only reason why we exist. Other than this, there is no meaning for us to exist. So when we really think about AI, the way we think about AI is like oxygen. And it's the most important thing. It's the most essential thing. It's critical right now. That's how we really survive. Enterprises have no other go right now other than using AI extensively. When you think about AI right now, it's everywhere, it's essential, and it's invisible. That's the most important point. Wherever you're using AI, you don't really feel that you're using. That's when AI becomes AI. When we really use AI within our product, you will never feel like there is an AI element really working. But it's always really helping you to really give the right perspective. Now, think about what's happening in the market today. We really live in a supply abundance and demand poverty. This is very unusual. In the middle of COVID, everything turned the other side down. And now we are really seeing a different swing, which we have never seen. On top of all of this, the labor forces across North America and Europe are shrinking. They're shrinking like never before. And this is a radically different time than we have ever seen. Just in US, we have 10 million jobs available and nobody is really taking them up. So if you look at like what's the current condition, it's a job abundance to talent poverty. That's what we live in. So what should you do as an enterprise when you're thinking about recruiting, retaining people, and really growing your employees to the next evolution? What do you think about? You have to start thinking about a radically different approach than what you are doing for the last 30 years. You have to play a differentiated levers. You have to position your company differently, whether it is through automation or employment branding or employee distribution or your profit model so that your compensation is different than it ever used to be. On top of it, you have to think about the fundamental thing. What is the experience you deliver to the key stakeholders? Now, we all live in an experience market. A company will either flourish or flounder based on one thing. What is the experience you deliver to your key stakeholders? In our case, the key stakeholders are always about the talent ecosystem key stakeholders, whether it's a candidate, alumni, employee, recruiter, manager, HR, you name it. Now, what you have to think about is people just remember how you made them feel. They never remember what you say. And now it's not about what you wrote on your career site or what you wrote about like on your job description. It's more about how do you make them feel throughout the journey. And to make that feeling really relevant and you connect with their emotions, enterprises has to use AI-first companies. A company like Phenom, which can give you experience with AI as a primary fabric, which is really baked into every part of the product. And when you think about experience, experience is always felt at an individual level. It's an individual point of view what experience means. It's always about you as a person. And how you make them feel, what are the emotions they carry are super critical. Now, experience equals to the I of every being. There are two most important things you have to think about when you're really addressing a person: personal and simple. If you cannot make your digital message personal and simple, you just lose audience. That's what we really live in. In the talent ecosystem, we have the candidate, the employee, the recruiter, and the manager. How do you give a radically different experience throughout the talent life cycle? And if you want to think about that, you have to think about two major components. The first one is about personalization. The other one is about automation. Personalization gives you a connection towards who the person is. Automation gives you a simplified message, and the process is not cumbersome. You have the talent and you have the business. You have to really address both of them. When you really think about talent, you have your existing employees and the future employees or the candidates who are looking for a job. How do you personalize for them at scale is super critical. When you think about your own business, it's always about productivity right now. When you think about productivity, think about your HR or recruiters or your managers. What are all the things you can automate for them so that they don't need to do the tasks which are irrelevant? And for that, you have to collect lots of data. There are many companies gather tons of data. In the last 30 years, there are tons of companies who are collecting data, and there are some companies who are popping up like just really doing AI. But the point is, it's not about collecting data. It's all about experience-driven AI. Companies are critical right now, where they can convert data into knowledge. The knowledge of what? The knowledge of what is relevant to the person. And what's the most important question they need to answer? Let's say a person is looking for a job, or a person is really working in a company. What they're really asking, what is my next job? What are the new skills I have to learn? Think about like, is this the company I'm connected with a purpose? Is this the right company I want to work for? Or think about a question like, is my boss right? Have I have mentors? Am I connected with the leader? How do you answer these questions are critical? That's where Phenom has started the TXM. It's about the candidates, it's about the recruiters, managers, and the employees. For the candidates, it's always about how do you create moments which matter. For the recruiters, it's always about productivity. For managers, it's about execution, and employees, it's about evolution. Now, think about this. We have collected in the last 10 years probably a massive data infrastructure. Over 1.1 billion people really sit on our product. Over 4 million employees use our product. Over 50,000 recruiters use our product almost every week. Over 200,000 managers. Just on the product, we really produce over 7 billion events. And we do personalization in an order of multiple billions in terms of giving experiences and delivery. And if you think about all this, why are we really collecting all this data to do what? To convert into the AI models, to really make sure we give a relevant experience to the people. We always think about AI-enhanced experience layer. That's what we really build on the top. And then what we think is, how can we really use that experience layer to create feedback loops? Feedback loops happen because there are multiple people involved throughout this journey. And the feedback loops are critical in terms of what pieces can be automated. Then you think about what is a company-wide context. What is this company doing? How can we understand where they're shrinking, where they're growing? Which particular locations they're really hiring a lot more effectively? Then you have a fundamental foundation of how HR operates. And that's where the talent experience platform really originated. We have 3 layers: the experience, the intelligence, and the integration. The experience layer is what people really touch and feel. The integration layer is the plumbing which actually connects to the ATS systems, HRMS systems, learning management systems, you name it. And the middle layer is where our intelligence is. And today, we'll be talking in depth about how this intelligence layer is actually operating, how Phenom developed an effective AI. What does an effective AI really means? Where should it start? For us, an effective AI is all about, we look at a customer problem. And the customer problem is so critical. If you don't have a customer problem, if you start because AI is cool, then it's waste of time. You're basically burning cycles because you're really picking up a new cool technology. That's not what is important. Then you have to engineer a repeatable framework. And we'll talk about that framework today in depth. And we really cover that extensively in multiple spots. Now, when we think about a customer problem, there is a framework which we operate in. What is the AI prediction cycle, and what is the customer impact going to be for the problem, what they really address today? The first thing what we do in this particular process is, we look at jobs to be done. What is the job the user want to complete, and what is the problem it created? And we really look at what is the customer problem from that perspective. Then we go after what is the AI prediction which we want to do. If you want to think about the AI prediction here, now you have the problem and you have the AI prediction, what you want to really go after, then you really think about the solution. What is the solution you want to define? And in this particular process, you go for what is the available data. In HR, there is a lot of data which is not really clean and high quality data sets. So we have to think about what is the data available? How do you make sure that data is clean with a high quality? Then you really look at like, okay, now you have the data. Then you think about what is the user experience you want to deliver. The user experience is critical because if you don't deliver the right experience and you really put a model in place, then it's useless because you won't get the feedback loops, you won't really connect with the person, and it becomes useless. Then you go after what is the AI model you want to build. There are tons of models to really pick, but for this problem, what is the right model to really pick is the most important thread which you have to think about. Then you really go into, okay, now what is the customer solution going to be? Now, the next phase really comes into, which is about like, okay, now I have the solution, but can I really redesign and enrich the solution? In this particular spot, you have to take the feedback loops, not just the user who is using on the front end, whether it is a recruiter or a manager, but you also have to take consideration of the feedback loops which you are getting from the other side of the equation, whether it's an employee or a candidate. And you take that, and what you do is you basically really look at, like, can I get an enriched data set with the feedback loops what I have collected? Then you go into, can I enhance the AI model? Now, when you are enhancing the AI model, you have tweaked before, but right now you're really thinking about, with the newer data, with the feedback loops what you have created, what is the right model to be deployed with the customer solution what we have right now? Then you get into the design enhancements and design enrichment. Like right now, you really take the design to the next level. And then you also think about explainability. How can you eliminate bias? What are the things which you should really make sure you're not really doing unwantedly? Because there is human intelligence and there is a machine intelligence. Both have its own problems with respect to bias. So you constantly have to think about where are you picking this data and how do you eliminate it? And the final one is about transformation. Now you take all this flow, then you really refine the problem. Can we really see a problem from a different perspective with the data and the model what we have right now? And what we have seen of the biases and all the elements what we have to think about in terms of inclusion. Then you go after, can I really think about the model adopted to a particular customer or an industry? And then you go through the next cycle, which is about what is the customer impact. And this cycle is continuous. It never stops. It is continuously really redeploying and really getting enhanced. And that's what is the beauty of it. But if you think about in the academia, models are built constantly. And there are a lot of papers which get released. We never pick a model or a paper because it's cool. We think, what is the realistic expectation which can create the highest impact? There are some models which are not really a fanfare for them in the university world. Let's say knowledge graphs. Nobody in the realm of academia really cares about knowledge graphs. But in industry, they made a humongous difference, whether it's to Google, or YouTube, or you really look at like Amazon or LinkedIn or Phenom. We all have benefited out of knowledge graphs tremendously and turning them into what you call as graph neural networks. But there are other areas where you have to think about. There are certain spots where models needs a lot of data. And with the scale and the quality of the data, your model gets much more cleaner and it predicts a lot more effectively and it can create an impact more. An example for this in the open world is GPT-3 or BERT. They basically have created high-level accuracy because the quality and the scale. But whereas if you really think about, there are some models you don't need a lot of data, like transformer models. So they don't need a lot of data. You constantly have to think about which model will work where based on the data sets you have, the refinement you are really creating, and really deliver the right experience so that it can give the right kind of impact for the customer. Why do you do all this? This is all about to create experience relevant. The time right now is about experience. And if you think about talent ecosystem today, it's a maze. Everybody lives in their own world. And it's almost like you're really looking at an escape room. Each one is really living in their own room and nobody knows like where to go. And you get lost. And that's what is happening in today's talent ecosystem. whether it is employee or a recruiter or a manager or a hirer, like a HR person. So how do you simplify this whole thing is the most critical thing. I'll give you an example. Now, let's play this. So when you really think about the maze itself, what happens here is you have the recruiters really connecting with the people, and the people are really scheduling different kinds of chatbots, and you have what you call as interview scheduling happening on the fly. When the interview schedule happens, you're really using the AI matching engines to really see like who are the best fit. And now you also bring your employees so that they can refer other people. As the employees are coming, the hiring managers are involved throughout this process who can really move. Then you can think about diversity and inclusion, where your ERGs can help you to really bring more people. Then you think about who in your employees can do career pathing. So when you think about career pathing, then you have to think about succession planning. Your manager should really think about, can this person really make an impact? Now you connect them with mentors, which is critical. And when you really connect people with mentors, you can really generate a lot more data than you have ever really created. Now, with this, you can think about how can you create an HR career framework, like for your own enterprise. All of that really connects back, and that's what makes a humongous difference. And now, if you really look at this, why you do all this? Why do you simplify the maze? What is the benefit you have? It's about cost optimization. When you think about cost optimization, it's about experience cost, which is what you really get with talent. Whether it is internal talent or external talent, you constantly have to think about experience as a most important cost which you're really getting into. The second one is vacancy cost. If you don't fill people in the right jobs, you're losing revenue. The third thing is turnover cost. You fill somebody and they're not a fit. And if he leaves, then what's the impact for you? And then somebody's working for the company and they're really doing good for the company. And if they're not growing, what's the cost for that? So what we did today for today is we really picked 4 different customer challenges. One is the career pathing and the employee growth. The second one is identifying anonymous visitors with personalization. And the third one is about like boosting recruiter productivity with AI. And the final one is we talk about how can you use intelligent automation for frontline workforce and early talent. These are the things what we'll really cover from the dimension of what I explained before. A framework of customer problem to AI prediction to customer impact. This is what we'll cover the next 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mahe. Really appreciate kicking us off. As Mahe mentioned, we have 4 really key focus areas. And under each one of these focus areas, we're going to go really in depth across this entire cycle. The first one, career pathing and employee growth, we're going to ask Lindsay to walk us through. Lindsay, please join the broadcast.
Thank you so much, JD. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you here. My name is Lindsay Morrow, and I'm one of the Senior Directors of Solutions Consulting here at Phenom. So as you've already heard here at Phenom from Mahe, experience to us is everything. And it's with that in mind that we created the Employee Experience Platform back in 2018. We've learned so much along the way and are understanding that employees, when they consider looking for the next step in their career, they're so often looking outside of the organization that they're already in. And why is that? Well, it's because they can't really envision all of the future potential that it can be potentially presented to them. So that really important question of what's in it for me becomes less believable and achievable where they are today. And so in understanding that, we want to know how we can know better so that we can do better. As mentioned, we've learned a lot along the way. So let's explore a sample data set of our own. When we surveyed a sample set of 5 organizations across different sizes, we learned that only 31% of those employees from 2018 to 2020 were going through the entire onboarding experience. In exploring that data further, we understood that 72% of those employees that started the process hoping to make it through, at some point along the way dropped off. Now, the goal of onboarding is to collect the insights and information that we really hoped to have in order to drive the recommendation experience. As you'll see, there is an exception to this rule. One of the organizations achieved 100% of total adoption and onboarding. How did they do this? Well, it's easy. They eliminated all of those steps that we suggested, only using 2 of them in order to achieve full onboarding into the platform. So there's obviously a direct correlation between the steps that we're asking employees to provide and the drop-off rates that we are seeing. Much like a lengthy apply process, every step provides an increased barrier of entry in using this platform that we are hoping employees to leverage in order to help visualize what the next steps in their career could look like within these organizations. Now, where in the process are they dropping off? In exploring this, it's very clear that the 2 points that resulted in the most drop-off were adding skills and choosing their preferences. Now, both of these require both insights and thought, but they also require manual entry. And employees just might not be ready or confident in what their skills or their potential interests are. And as a result, they leave. Now, in full transparency, let's play this video and showcase a visual representation of our pre-existing onboarding process. Now, as you can see, there's so much that we're doing, from type ahead search to making suggestions along the way in order to help collect the skills and interests that we really need to know and understand about these employees. But in a world of one-click shopping and real-time recommendations without the manual entry, the appetite for providing that information is just less and smaller than ever thought before. This is probably enough of that video. So let's hear some good news. So that once those employees did complete the onboarding, as many as 80% were returning again and again, making our retention rates really strong. They were coming back to the site consistently in order to engage with the content, explore job recommendations, and refer others into the business. But we were really hoping to learn more about, do the actions that the employees take while in the platform mirror that which they were hoping to achieve? And when we surveyed the users across this sample set, we learned that far and away what employees were hoping to do is grow their own skill set in order to help understand what their future can look like, whether that's for potential roles in the future or even in their existing job today. But what they were actually doing when they logged into the platform was searching for specific requisitions that were open and available to them at that present time. So it seems like we're at an impasse, right? Because the information that we really need, those skills and interests, in order to help them drive the growth and development that they clearly hope to achieve, those employees are not willing to provide that, not just in the onboarding process, but in general. So as mentioned, our retention rates were really strong, but only 10% of those employees consistently leveraging the platform actually updated their profiles on a regular basis. And so it's become really clear that we simply cannot rely on manual entry from these employees in order to help them achieve the growth and the potential that organizations need for them to do in order to get them to stay. Instead, we need to rely on the oxygen-like artificial intelligence, the data, in order to help these employees predict their future on their behalf. The good news is that now that we know better, we do better. So in order to help understand how we are taking the next step in the very critical evolution of employee experience, I want to turn it over to our expert our resident data expert, James. James, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, my name is James Schlitt. I'm a senior data scientist at Phenom People, and right now I want to discuss where we are with this challenge. we are facing unprecedented changes in the US and global job market. Beyond the transition of knowledge workers from office to work from home employment and everything else that's happened during the last few years of COVID, we are seeing one of the greatest periods of employee churn we've ever seen. People have taken this moment to reevaluate their lives and reevaluate their priorities, and they're frequently looking elsewhere to get some sense of what their next chapter could be like. This presents a problem for employers because we stand to lose a lot of well-cultivated, long-term talent going out the door. So it's much more valuable for us to try to find a means of retaining this talent for years rather than trying to bring in novel talent, which takes time to cultivate. The way we want to approach this is by looking at employee tenure prediction, which is to say, how can we know when an employee might be leaving and what can we do to convince them to stay? Or if we can't, how can we prevent a major skill and capacity loss if they do choose to go? So the question becomes, when might they start looking for a job, both in time, triggers, and the stage of their career development? If we suspect they might go looking for a job, what skills do they have? They've obviously learned a lot since the last time since they joined us. So we want a way to quantify that and see also what skills might be ahead of them that could help them within their next opportunity. So our goal with this is to use these skills to predict the next best internal role for these employees so we can promote from within rather than spending resources looking for external hires. Next slide, please. There are a lot of challenges to this. Broadly, it comes under data availability, as with everything else AI-driven. Traditionally, when people haven't made the decision to actively job search, they haven't updated the skills in their resume either. So representing the true candidate that we've grown them to be can be challenging for their existing employer. There's a couple ways we can look at this. Firstly, we look at their profiles, and these will often be unstructured and scattered between a lot of different sources. We could have different applicant tracking systems, internal HR systems, and unstructured profiles on the old career sites that brought them to us in the first place. There's also the challenge of outdated resumes. If the employee has been comfortable with us for a long while, then we likely do not have an accurate representation of their current skill set within our existing resume on file. And finally, there's title and department. One precise title at two different companies can represent a very different set of skills, needs, and day-by-day lived experiences for these candidates. Next slide, please. So this brings the opportunity for our tenure prediction model. We want to be able to extrapolate where our candidates are and predict where they're going to be in the near future. For where they are, we look at their skills, find the most important skills that matter. Then we can also fill in some of the gaps for the skills that they have not yet directly presented to us. This gives us some information on what their next title may be. If we have a sense of the next title, we have a lot of opportunities to cultivate this employee and keep them engaged across the life cycle. We can make additional training available, additional certifications, or otherwise keep them abreast of what future opportunities will open up to them when it's time for them to make the choice. Once we have a sense of their career path, we can start preparing for the crucial inflection point of, do they stay with you or do they move on? And we need to be ready for both. For one, we should work to retain these employees where we can. But for two, we should be able to cultivate additional employees to replace this churn. To describe some of how we do this, I'd like to bring on our team and Suresh to go into a little greater detail about the process. And next slide.
Hi everyone, I'm Suresh, Director of Search and Personalization. Today I would like to talk about tenure prediction model. What are we trying to solve using this model? Using this model, we would like to predict average tenure of an employee in a particular role in an industry. So how did we solve this? We use a lot of candidate data that we curated from public sources, which is part of our Phenom DNA datasets. As we know, each candidate comes with a lot of information like current title, current organization, past title, past organization, time spent in a role, skills he gained in that duration. So we represented each candidate in a graph format to train our graph neural network. So we are not talking about hundreds or thousands of profiles. We used close to 1 billion profiles to train this neural network. As you see, these are some of the data sets that are part of our Phenom DNA. We have close to 1 billion candidate profiles, 400 million jobs, 200,000 skills, 570,000 job titles, and 1.2 million companies and more. So what can we answer from this data? Given any job, let's say I want to answer something like, given a job title in an industry and a location, I'd like to answer what is the average tenure that is spent in that current role. As a precursor to training our neural network, we trained a multi-class classification model to categorize into 23 job families. And these categories or job family groups are taken from standard owner data sets. And to build this model, we use close to 40 million job descriptions, which we labeled using both manual labeling as well as auto labeling techniques. And we use this label data set to train a fine-tuned BERT model, which is a state-of-art NLP model. And we were able to achieve an accuracy of 91%. On top of the job families, we also trained a model to predict job zone, which helps us in determining the level of training a candidate needs to perform a specific job role. And using this model, we can determine if a job or a candidate falls into a frontline worker or a knowledge worker space. And since the zones are ordinal in nature, we trained an ordinal classification model, and we were able to achieve an accuracy of 94%. And if you can see, we have analyzed job distribution across the industries of our clients. For example, in this case, education services. And if you see the data, we can see each client has a different distribution of job zones in spite of being in the same industry. This is another example from wholesale and retail. And here also we can see that the distribution is different from each client. Now we have these micro segments of data that we use to train our graph neural network. And our graph, the model that we built can give all the answers that we have been looking for. For example, average tenure of a chemical engineer in Chicago in manufacturing industry, let's say I want to answer this, my model can give me the answer as 7 years, 4 months. And so far what we have seen has been built using universal context with Phenom DNA datasets. But we took this to next level by using the enterprise customers datasets, and where you are able to build neural networks entirely specific to that organization, which helps us in determining or capturing a better context for that enterprise. Based on all this, we have been able to classify all the employees into risk profiles. We can categorize employees into high risk, low risk, moderate risk. We can get this information at each category level and at each band level. Thank you. My colleague Deepak will be taking over from here.
Hi, I'm Deepak. I work as a machine learning engineer in Phenom. I'll talk about the next step of employee engagement cycle, which is to predict skills for an employee. As we know that less than 10% of the employee go on to the internal tools and update their skills. For that, we developed something called Phenom ontology, in which we have 180,000 curated skills and 500,000 curated titles, and it has been done over a period of 10 years. For this, we trained a state-of-art graph neural network that relates various aspects of candidate with the aspects of jobs. The benefit of using a graph neural network is that it can find out features and relations that supervised neural network might not be able to find. Right? So as you see here, we can use this to predict skills for a given title. So here we see that relationship between a given title with its skills. So this visualization shows the relationship that we have added in the graph neural network. As you can see, we have a person and a job. Their various aspects are related to each other, and using this relationship, we have trained our neural network, graph neural network. So with this, we can predict skills given title and company. For example, what is the skill of a data scientist from Google, or what is the skill of a sales associate from Walmart, right? This model can do other variations like giving the skills given title, company and a location, skills given title and some prior skills. For this, this is the data that we have trained it on. So all of this data have been independently curated, separate from customer data from various public sources. This model gave us very interesting outputs. For example, here for similar titles, we get quite different skills. For example, here we have a different type of attorneys here, right? There's a corporate attorney, there's civil attorney, and there's a criminal attorney. So the skills for all of them are quite different. Similarly, we have been able to find variations in skills for same title, but in different company of different industries. For example, we have project manager, right? Project manager from Honeywell would have different skills than a project manager from Hilton. Here you can see even for the same title, if we know some of the prior skills, we can find what would be their other skills that might be present for them. So for example, if you know software engineer, these are the skills for them. If you know that there's a software engineer with automation testing as a skill, the other testing skills are predicted for them. If you know there's a software engineer for which backend development is a skill, so other backend development skills are predicted for them. So now that we are able to predict skills of an employee, let's move on to the next part of the cycle, which is job recommendation. So for job recommendation, we take the title, skills, location, and tenure of the employee to find the jobs to recommend to them. But it's in universal context. So we'll also take care of the enterprise context. We'll look at the career path of the various employees that work in that company. So here, as you see, there are various employees, career path of various employees who are going from job A to job B. Some people are going to job C. So all these things we take into consideration, and we are able to find jobs which are best fit for a candidate. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, you've learned a lot about what our experience used to look like, and you've learned a lot about some of these new models and the challenges we're trying to solve for. Let's look ahead and where we are today. A lot of our customers tend to trigger campaigns, particularly for referral data, and what we've noticed is there's a 31% open rate, but as we added these these new models, we're now starting to see a much larger apply click rate. So let's queue up the demo to kind of look at what's causing that. Now, as you see, before we had the title ahead prediction, we still have that, but what you're now starting to see from an employee perspective is we're starting to suggest those skills. So you're no longer left to the guessing game of figuring out what skills you have. Now we're looking at your job title to really understand what skills you might possess and make it super simple for you to claim those skills. So I think that's enough of that video. Let's keep going next. And let's actually look at the other aspect of the house is not only understanding the employee and their current skill sets and making that suggestion, but also understanding how well of a fit they are to a job requisition. And that's where our fit score also comes in. It's really explaining in a simple UI, clean UI for your employees to know, based on my skill sets, what am I lacking, where am I missing, and where can I grow to really get into my next role. And all of that is leading to tremendous impact. Let's look at what that really looks like for the last year so far. In the last year, we've seen a 40% increase in employee signups. This is a crazy number, right? 40% increase in employee signups means there's more employees coming to the platform, which means there's also more employees coming back. We're seeing double that of those employees signing up actually coming back. And because they're coming back, we're seeing double that in terms of internal applies. That's internal growth that employees are seeing. And from an organization perspective, that's talent you're promoting. And not only growth internally, but we're also seeing companies promote more jobs internally. We're seeing double the amount of jobs posted into our internal employee experience. Ultimately, in the last year and a half or two, we've also seen tremendous growth in just our customer base and the number of internal hires. you'll see off the bat that we have 18 customers in 2020, and now we've doubled that. We've also doubled and tripled the amount of internal hires, internal movements, which is really what we're here for, career growth. But we've not only just seen that, we've also seen career paths also get triggered. So let's cue up the demo here real quick to really look at what that looks like. Now, as you see here on the left-hand side, this is actually our AI in action, making those determinations for the employee. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing how simple it is for an employee to really look at a role, how good of a fit they are, and what are the requirements for that role? What is their gaps? Where are they lacking? This leads into our next demo, which is really course recommendations. So let's cue that next demo up. Now that an employee has created a career path, we know their gaps, we can start recommending courses. Again, let's take the guesswork out of what they need to accomplish and what they need to learn to move up the ladder. Now, all of this starts really with your enterprise data, understanding your employees, understanding your jobs, understanding your career architecture, understanding that talent maze that you heard Mahe talk about earlier. Now, we're really excited to introduce a brand new product today called Phenom's Enterprise Career Framework. Now, before we jump into the demo, I want to just paint a quick picture in your head. Think about that talent maze that Mahe kind of showed earlier. Think about all of those different touch points where data could flow from your candidate to your recruiters to your managers and employees. Think about all of the different systems that might house that data. It's not easy to understand or maneuver that data, and that's really where we want to introduce our Enterprise Career Framework. So let's cue up the demo here real quick so you guys get an experience for it. Now, as I mentioned, our Enterprise Career Framework, it's really intended to take all of your different systems, all of your different data points, and give you a single location where you can manage all of that data in a single view. Now think about another example where maybe your managers, your hiring managers, your TA partners, HR partners, talent management folks all have a single tool where they can actually manage your roles, your descriptions, your titles, all of that in a single location. That's really where we envision that the Enterprise Career Framework. And if you give it just a second, we'll kind of run through this demo again, and we'll see the job profiles come up. Let's give it just a second here, and you'll notice that off the bat in the dashboard, you have all of your roles, you have all of your bands, and more importantly, you have understanding of your skills, competencies, employees associated to that role, and jobs open against that role, and ultimately insights about that role, including internal talent migration, which is crucial to understand your career paths. We're also giving you visibility into your entire skills inventory, not just skills associated to a job, but also skills associated to an employee. We're looking at things like competencies as well. And ultimately, what we want to envision is career paths. How do you envision all of your different career paths in your organization in a simple UI before you actually promote it to your employees? That's what Enterprise Career Framework is meant to do. And just want to cue it off by bringing JD back on just to talk about some of the customer impacts that we've had within the last 90 days.
Oh,
JD?
Jesus, thank you very much for bringing me back. My favorite part of all of these sessions and all these core focus areas is the impact section.
Yeah.
Besides maybe later on when we unveil our recruiting robot, of course, people have to stick around. But from an employee perspective, over 4 million employees engage with Phenom Employee Experience. But it gets better because you have to understand, what does that actually equate to? Well, let's break it down into smaller chunks, right? Over the last 90 days alone, 1 million employees logged in. That's equated to over 100,000 internal job applications being completed with 25,000 hires. Those same employees that were logging in who seem to be happy because they're applying to internal jobs and they're getting other positions, they've referred over 250,000 people.
Yeah.
So from a recruitment perspective, from an employee engagement perspective, talent acquisition, when you have happy employees and you're engaging them, and that's what everyone on this call or this AI day is trying to do a lot of times, if you give them the right technology, if you continue to give them that path, that excitement of growth, they become advocates. And ultimately, that's where we want to get them, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That's where we want to go, and that's why we're here to talk about career growth.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesus. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Well, the second focus area we want to talk about is identifying anonymous visitors with personalization. We get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of individuals coming to your career sites, interacting with your chatbots. Who are they? How do you convert them? And we're going to ask Cliff to join us on the broadcast here to kind of start understanding what job here, Cliff, is it to be done, and how do we take that same model around AI and apply it to this?
A lot of work to be done here, so let's get started. You know, when we think about anonymous visitors on a career site and who they are, candidates themselves, what are they looking for? They aren't always willing to share their information until the apply process, and that information is really just their CV or resume. It doesn't really help us understand what their intention is. Organizations really struggle to identify these visitors and what their preferences are. And of course, employers really want to broadcast that message that they are a place where people want to work, where they can grow. But if we look at the behavior right now of visitors, you know, they'll do a Google search, which is about 70% or so of all job searches coming from Google, get redirected to a job board, they'll look at a listing, then they'll click a link and they'll go to the job description page where, you know, they'll spend about 41 seconds of their time on that page. Only 1 in 6 are actually clicking apply. Only 1 in 3 are completing that application. 1 in 8 might come back to the career site and might revisit. And 8% of all visitors are leaving some kind of information behind. So it's not a whole huge audience of people that are leaving information about themselves. If you think about this, and I'll give you a visual, pick a 20 or 30,000 seat stadium anywhere where you're located in the world, and do all the marketing, invite people in, get them seated, and then shut the lights out on them, and then ask them to leave. This is exactly what's happening with the candidate experience today. And for some companies, they're filling that stadium or that arena 3, 4, 5 times a month. So we want to change that, and we're going to change that through a couple different things. And when we do, you know, what we look at the candidate experience is almost 3.5 time increase on the time they spent on the career site. So they're really getting to know the brand and the culture. You get about a 50% increase on the apply-click conversion, and you're also getting a 50% or so increase on the completion of the apply, as well as a 3.5 time return visit percentage, which is really huge. So when we think about the candidate experience overall, what we're really trying to do is understand who they are. And when we bring value to that experience, when people see the value and in the engagement, they stay and they give us information about themselves because why? They want a better job. They want to connect with work that's meaningful to them. And this is how we're going to do that. So one of the things that we look at is that lead conversion. Right now, most career sites are starting at 0. And so on the Phenom platform, we start at a minimum of 16% lead conversion right there. So people that are leaving some information behind about themselves. So I want to leave you with this. You know, this isn't just about the art of possible. It's about the reality of science. And using that, we used to say that this was a battle or a war for talent. That no longer really applies. Today, it's a race to engage, and those that can engage better will win. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Brahm, and he's going to talk about how we help candidates get to the front of the line and how we help employers and companies engage better.
Thanks, Cliff. I'm Abram Vandergeest, Dr. Abram Vandergeest. I am a principal machine learning engineer here at Phenom, and I'm going to be talking about how we use the personalization attached to a given individual visiting the site to improve their engagement and increase the time they're on this career site. So I'm going to show you a video here in just a moment that will have a model of how someone interacts with the career site. She will come from a job board where she will arrive at a marketing manager position. And then on the left of that, we'll see an image representing her but also dots of colors. And these dots represent information that we are gathering from her visit to the web page. And we'll see that grow more as she interacts more and more with the career site. So go ahead and start the video, please. So you see that our individual has arrived at a marketing manager position. She goes through and looks through the entire web page. And it's interesting enough for her that she goes ahead and wants to look at other browsing jobs. We knew she visited a marketing manager position, so we were able to give her a personalized experience. She finds this interesting enough that she goes ahead and provides more information in the form of a resume, such that we can provide her with a super personalized list of positions, two of which here are listed as perfect fits. She clicks on one of them and sees that this really is a good fit for her. And so she goes ahead and clicks the apply button. A lot of this information is populated from her resume, but she fills out what else she needs to add, and she has applied to the position. At this point, we've still gathered information from her, such that when she gets to the chatbot and she wants to ask a question, we're able to provide questions that are relevant to her, such that it's a more personalized interactive experience. And with that, I want to hand off to Arjan, who will talk about a lot of the engineering involved in this process.
Hi, this is Arjun, and I'm working as a product development engineer at Phenom. So let's start talking about personalization at Phenom. So specifically talking about first-time user experience. Whenever a user lands on the job view page, we show how many applicants have been there for this particular job, and also how many views have happened on the job. And simultaneously, we also show the important context of the job. So we try to optimize the time spent of the user on this particular job description so that he gets the relevant content. Along with that, we also show a similar jobs widget where we identify similar jobs relevant to this particular job the user is viewing. Coming down, we also have people also viewed widget for this particular job. And when you scroll down, you also have all the skills that are extracted from the candidates from the past hires. So we extract all the skills who have applied for this job and which are relevant over here. And you can correlate, the candidate can correlate to these skills, so you can get a gist of it. Yeah, moving on, we are talking about similar jobs widget. So coming to similar jobs, we developed a model using topic modeling. So topic modeling here is more relevant on the skills that are extracted across the jobs. So we extracted skills using multiple like NER models and other parameters. We extracted skills across these jobs, across industries. And on these skills, we executed topic modeling and try to identify the relevant topics and try to identify the similar jobs with respect to these topics. So in the real time, whenever a job is viewed, we try to, we have this as a pre-trained model. And whenever a particular job is viewed, we try to get the similar jobs from this pre-trained model using these topics that are extracted based on the skills. So the major concern about this particular topic modeling is there were no recommendations for all the jobs that we have. The coverage was specifically lower on this segment. Even if there were recommendations for a job, it was on a kind of, the number of jobs were lower. Let's say just one job or two jobs are crossing the threshold of the topics. So that's the reason, I mean, this actually inspired us to build a more deeper model with the latest technologies, right? So next we went on to build the new model with BERT embeddings from Google. So here, what we considered is, along with the skills, we also considered title, skills, experience, location, and categories of the jobs. So for these parameters, we then extracted the BERT embeddings for these multiple parameters, and these we did a Google search on these embedded parameters. So once we get we send it to search engine. So once the search engine gives the results, we again add another layer of re-ranking upon it based on online fit score. And this online fit score is again dependent on our custom trained Phenom embeddings. So there are two levels of ranking or extraction, similar job extraction that is happening over here to get the refined ranked similar jobs for a particular job. So this gave us a very good results for us. The number of conversion rates have increased across all the clients that we have deployed on. So when you look at a sample of clients that we deployed this new model on, you can see there's a 500% increment in the apply completion ratio. Who have successfully submitted the applications, right? That's a good number. And along with that, we also increased apply clicks or click-through rate of each of the tenants that we have basically deployed this model on has increased by 300%. So the click-through rates have increased by 300% and apply completions have increased by 500%, which is a considerable amount of increment for similar jobs. And when you look at overall increment of the click-through ratio for similar job across all the clients, if you consider, so we increase this particular sample of clients that we have deployed the new model on has increased the overall application or conversion rates by 30%. And when you look at people also viewed widget, which we were showing in the first slide, so there the conversion rate currently is at 20%. So that's about the first time user experience and the similar jobs model that we have developed. So coming to a returning user experience, let's talk about what would be the experience of a returning user. So coming to returning user, whenever the user lands on a home page, we give a personalized experience. So if it's an anonymous user, we give an option for the user to give some information. If we already have a browsing history, we show browsing history based recommendations for the job. Along with that, we also show recently viewed jobs of the user on the home page. To enhance or personalize the user experience of this user, we also give blog recommendations which are relevant based on the categories of the jobs that the user has viewed. Along with that, we also give testimonials of the company that the user is trying to apply to make sure that the candidate make that move one step ahead in their application, or increase the personalization or enhance the personalization experience of the user. So coming to the browser-based recommendations that we were talking about, so it's dependent again based on a model. So we use users data, users past events data, and we try to shortlist jobs based on the past event data of the user, and the events that we consider are apply job applications of the user, jobs viewed, jobs clicked, and categories of the job that the user has searched, and search keywords on what keywords that the user was searching for the jobs. So we take all these exhaustive parameters and then convert these parameters again into, like we give it to the search engine, where the search engine will give us a relevant ranking for the algorithm and ranking for the jobs that we get, and then we show the recommendations. So this was on the higher note, this is what our initial browsing-based recommendation model was working on. And the main issues with this model are basically it's a text-based search, and there is no feedback input into this particular model from the user. So that's those were the two main parameters or like events which inspired us to again build a new model with the latest technologies. So we started working on this, and we developed a deep neural network based browsing based model, where here we trained the model offline using the network, and the parameters we used are from the user, we used user location and what are the search keywords. And from the jobs, we have title, skill, category, and location of all the jobs that the user has interacted with in the past. So we feed this, the user information, profile information, as well as the jobs information into this encoder module. So this encoder module will convert this text into like encoded vectors. So this encoded vectors are again given it to the deep neural network layer, which will try to identify like which are all the jobs which the user would be more preferring to apply, and give a score. So it will basically predict for each of the job whether the user will be applying it or will there be no action on the specific job. So this model also gave a very good response on the UI and across all the clients, and we deployed this model across all the clients now, which is giving much better results in terms of click-through rates. When you consider clicks, we saw an increase of like 19% from the older model, and when you look at applies, it increased from by 24%. We also track the position score of each individual widget. There are many widgets. Browser-based is just one of the widgets that we are talking about. So position scores are measured across all the widgets. Now coming to position score, we custom formulated this particular metric using NDCG. So, and that increased by 15% based on browsing-based, like the latest model of browsing-based history. Thank you.
Thanks, Arjun. Hi, Mom. Actually, if my mom is watching, there's a lot I don't know about my mom. So we make recommendations to help guide candidates, but we also know that they may want to choose their own adventure. That's where search comes in. Here's Shrikar to talk about Phenom's search capabilities.
Hi everyone, I'm Shrikar, Engineering Manager at Phenom for Search and Personalization Group. So I'll be talking about career search experience today. So search is one of the major functionality of our career site. So our search is widely used by most of the users who are coming to our platform in an effective manner. So we all know what is search and how it is being used in general. But we provide very advanced features in our search, such as we provide most relevant type aheads. We have stop words filtering mechanism. We have spell checkers, which will correct the keywords automatically, and we have AA basis synonyms and semantic search. And if you look at our search experience, it gives advanced personalized experience to the user. That means our search understands what user is looking for by analyzing the user behavior in an effective way and provide the best relevant results to the specific to that user. So we will see how our search is evolved to the current stage. So this is a very first version of our search. So there was only information retrieval process where documents were retrieved using dynamic ranking mechanism from search engine and provided these results directly to the results page. So we have observed many challenges here, like low relevancy performance, and we also observed there were no results in multiple scenarios like typos and matched keywords. For example, if user is searching with recruiter specialist keyword, so this version of search is not able to retrieve talent acquisition specialist jobs even if we have those jobs. So we have talked about low relevancy performance, right? So how did we measure that, and how are we measuring our search quality? So for this, we developed a mechanism called search score. We used normalized discounted cumulative gain approach to compute our search score. So this score is computed based on the positions where clicks and applies are happening in our search results. So if search score is more, means the search is giving more relevant results on the top positions. So when we computed search score on initial version of our search, so we observed the challenges which I explained previously, such as the low search score and no results in multiple scenarios. So to solve these challenges, we have introduced pre-search process to understand more about user keywords. So we introduced various steps like language identifier, stop word mechanisms, entity extraction, spell checkers, and used synonyms and semantics to expand our search scope. So if user is searching with any keyword, our search identifies the language being used, checks whether there are any stop words, checks for spell corrections, extract the entities of the keyword, whether it's a job title, location, or job type, etc., and uses synonyms and semantic words for any given keyword to retrieve the results. So with this approach, we are able to solve empty result scenarios and improve the search score a little bit. And we further analyze the search score and observe some scenarios that some users are clicking on the other position results instead of clicking on the top results. So this gives low search score scenarios, and this means this specific user is more interested in these results. So we'll have to bring these relevant results to the top positions. So we wanted to improve this experience to the user. So for this, we came up with a machine learning model called Learn to Rank, LTR model, and introduced this model as a re-ranking process in our search. So this LTR model will understand the user behavior, like what jobs the user is interested in with respect to the job title, location, experience, and various other parameters, and re-rank the results according to the user context. So if you look at this example, our search understands what all titles, experience, locations this user is interested in, and re-rank the results according to the user. So how did we develop our LTR model? So we used user context, search keywords, and the jobs which are written from the search engine for these keywords. So we use this information and trained a model based on the user actions on these results and provided a relevant scores for each job with respect to the user context and keywords. So these relevant scores are used to optimize and re-rank the final results. So we are not using user identity anywhere in this process. We are using user context only. And we developed various models like job zone wise and industry wise to optimize the experience in various scenarios. For example, a different model is required for frontline workers and a different model is required for tech users. So after this LTR model is introduced, we have seen a significant improvement in our search scores. So we have observed our search score is improved by 20% on average for all the customers, and even our conversion ratios are also increased by 24%. So this is our current version of search. Why do we need this? So we have seen that we have developed different ranking models for different purposes. So we have introduced multi-AMP bandits in our post-search processing area, so which will decide which model will give optimized results in a real time for any given user context and provide the best relevant results to that user. So this is how we are providing a best search experience to the user in our platform. Another topic I'm going to talk about is smart teasers. So what are smart teasers? So we observe that users don't prefer to spend more time on job view pages. To facilitate this, we make sure we highlight or show some relevant content on any job on search results or recommendation results sections, so that users can get more information about a job without going to the job description page itself. So that is where smart teasers and smart highlights come into picture. How did we develop these teasers? So initially we use PageRank algorithm, so which ranks the text with respect to its relevancy to the description. So teasers extracted from this approach were not giving consistent results across various industries. So we designed a new model which is developed on top of the PageRank, with taking PageRank sentences and re-ranking these sentences with contextual similarity, top skills and titles. So these teasers are more refined and ranked in a better way across all industries to provide better teasers. We have seen smart teasers. So what are smart highlights? Smart highlights are highlighted sentences in job description pages, which is for similar purpose. So user can get high level information about a job without even going through the content of the complete job description. So we are using the same model which is used for teasers, but with minor changes. So we are also working on personalizing highlighting based on candidates' profile, search keywords, and previous interactions. So we can see the new version is giving better results over here. So with the new version, we could see an increase of 7% in our conversion ratios. So this is how we improved our user experience to get more information about the jobs with minimal efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrikar, for showing us what's under the hood of search and smart highlights. Sometimes a quick chat will help a candidate figure out what they need. And here's Shrikar to tell us how AI can have that chat.
Hey there, I'm Shekhar, and I am an engineering manager for the conversational AI team at Phenom. The chatbot plays a very integral role in converting anonymous visitors into leads and then into qualified applicants. We've observed that when career sites typically implement a chatbot, they experience a 95% increase in the number of leads generated, a 14% increase in the number of applications started, and a massive 40% increase in the number of applications completed. So candidates can initiate the conversation with the chatbot by going onto the career site. The chatbot shows them a push notification with several options, one of which is to explore jobs. When a candidate clicks on the Explore Jobs option, they are then taken through a guided conversation to discover jobs. This is especially beneficial to anonymous visitors who are probably in the beginning stages of finding jobs and discovering jobs on the platform. So now, depending on the candidate's responses, Phenom uses a deep learning based dialogue management policy to decide on what is the next question to be asked to the candidate. For example, in our case, if the candidate is looking for marketing-based jobs, the chatbot figures out based on this conversation history and the dialogue policies that we have trained at Phenom using deep learning to figure out that the next best question to ask the candidate are his current and previous job title as well as his preferred work location. So in this way, the chatbot uses all the dialogue history and a dialogue policy to figure out what is the next best question to ask the candidate. So these dialogue policies have been learned using deep learning at Phenom based on the millions of conversations that the Phenom chatbot has across all of our tenants. If we look at the typical breakdown of messages that the chatbot has today on the platform, a vast majority of them, approximately 75% of them, are about providing information to the chatbot and helping candidates to find and discover jobs. These could be the job title that the candidate currently possesses, his skills, his past work experience, and so on. The second major category of questions that the chatbot receives are about FAQs. So if we look at the actual breakdown and the most popular FAQs, these are usually about the application and hiring process, the compensation and benefits that a company offers, etc. So what we have observed is that when candidates engage with the company using FAQs and getting responses as part of a conversation, they are more inclined to apply for jobs. So let's take an example. If a candidate comes to the career site, he opens up the chatbot and he types in a message asking for nursing jobs at Ardmore. So the first step that the chatbot has to do is to identify this key information from this message. In our example, it's to understand that nursing is the skills or category of jobs that the candidate is interested in, and he or she prefers to work in and around Ardmore. So the chatbot uses a deep learning based NLP pipeline, at the heart of which is a model that we have trained called the Dual Intent Entity Classifier. This classifier is based on the transformer architecture, which is state of the art. This has been trained with a joint objective of both intent classification as well as entity extraction, which is the job of understanding the intent and extracting key information from the candidate messages respectively. Once this information is extracted out of this NLP pipeline, these are then used to fetch jobs and return them back to the candidate. Now, if a candidate is interested in the list of jobs that are populated, he can click that he's interested and he can continue the application process where he'll be taken to an apply page and give the rest of his details. But candidate behaviors are not easy to predict and they're always evolving. For example, during the current ongoing COVID pandemic, we have observed a steep increase in the number of questions related to finding remote positions at different companies. So in order to understand and evolve our algorithms along with the changing candidate behavior, the chatbot uses a mix of active learning and semi-supervised learning to learn from the millions of conversations that it has in production every day. So it automatically annotates and retrains and deploys the above NLP pipeline that we just discussed. By employing this feedback-based mechanism in our chatbot platform, we have observed over the last 1 year an increase of 5% and 14% in our intent classification and entity extraction processes respectively. So the next enhancement that we have made in the chatbot is based on our earlier observation that candidates who engage with the chatbot by asking questions tend to apply to jobs more. So when an anonymous visitor visits the career site and the chatbot shows them different options in the push notification, if they select ask a question, the chatbot recognizes that the candidate now wants to ask questions. Now, based on conversations that the chatbot had across the platform already, from the millions of conversations that we have across the platform, the chatbot figures out what are the most popular FAQs that will be relevant to this anonymous visitor. If the anonymous visitor decides not to go with our suggestions, he can go with asking his own question. Let us say he decides to ask about the mission of the company. So now we answer this question and store this also as part of our dialogue management context. Now, using this dialogue management context as well as a language model that has been pre-trained and fine-tuned on all the question-answer pairs that we have already on the platform, we populate other relevant suggestions that might be useful based on his current viewing history. As the candidate interacts and clicks from one of these suggestions, the model figures out that this is a better suggestion and it re-ranks and improves its algorithm automatically. By employing these suggestions in our chatbot in production, we have observed at least a 40 to 50% increase in the number of interactions across the chatbot. This leads to better applications from the candidates. In order to help recruiters create these question-answer pairs that will be used in the chatbot, we also employ a different deep learning-based model to automatically parse through the different career site pages that is already available on the platform. For example, if we look at the current page, which is talking about benefits, which is taken as the high-level context, and specifically if we look at the medical coverage-based content, which is taken as the low-level context, this deep learning model, which is a question-answer generation model, takes into context both the high-level and the low-level context and generates a relevant question and an answer and all the possible other variations of asking the same question. The advantage of this is, as changes are made and published to the career site, the content that is used by the chatbot can automatically be updated without any involvement from the recruiters. By running this extraction process for different industries that are available on the Phenom platform today, we have observed that we can automatically generate over half of all content that is currently existing on our platform. By automating all these kinds of questions, we free up the recruiter to do more important things. So to summarize all of the above, the chatbot uses a wide variety of machine learning and deep learning based algorithms to attract and provide an optimal experience for anonymous visitors and convert them using a dialogue management model into qualified leads and help them discover jobs. As the candidate discovers and finds out the specific job he's interested in, we also, again using deep learning techniques, we guide them to becoming an actual applicant. Thank you.
Hi again. We just heard from Shekhar about how the chatbot interacts with an anonymous lead. But the important thing to note is that we also have the chatbot elicit information from them so that we know more about them. I'm going to be talking about something very similar. We're trying to enrich the profile that is maintained behind the interactions with this anonymous lead. A vast majority, or large majority, of the profile anonymous leads that come to your career site actually probably exist in your CRM. They exist because they've previously visited the site, or other internal employees have made referrals for them. They've interacted with your social media platform, or things like that. So we want to enrich this anonymous lead by matching them to their profile in the CRM. And so we do this with a rules-based pipeline that looks at the lead and the CRM profiles, and it makes a prediction whether it's matching or not. At this point, it is compared to external or tools or AI matching to validate whether the model is, whether it is a match or not. This provides a nice enriched lead for which both your recruiters can act on, but also where we can use this information to continue personalizing their interaction. Next slide, please. So it turns out profile matching of leads to matches is very, very hard, but also very, very easy. Can you just go back one, please? So it turns out that it's actually pretty easy for a match to be made if we have lots of information. Thank you. This high information match can be done by the rules-based approach. And conversely, high information not matches are also very easy for the rules-based approach to identify. What ends up being a problem is this middle region without much information. So we have to make something in the middle to use, basically create synthetic matches and not matches to fill in this gap. Because the leads often come in with not much information, this is actually where a good portion of the profile matching will occur. So to use an ML model to make these predictions, we actually have to have data to train it on. So the way we do this is we take a rules-based match with lots of information. We start deleting out this information so that we have a low information match. We still know it's a match because we didn't change the identity. So this gives us some synthetic matches that we can use to train on. Now, to make not matches that are also difficult, not quite yet, please, we end up doing the same thing where we take rules-based matches and make them low information, and then we apply functions that change their identity so that we now have a synthetic set of matches and a synthetic set of not matches. Now, we actually see that if we take the full pipeline of rules, external tools, and ML matches, that we get about 2/3 of a 91 million anonymous leads. The other third comes from them not being matches, because plenty of anonymous leads do not pre-exist in your CRM, and also on some matches that we might have missed. We are continuously updating our artificial intelligence to reduce the number of these unknown matches. From the 2/3 in which we are able to make matches, 47% of the 91 million are from our own tools, from the rules-based approach validated with the ML models. And of those, 16% are validated by the ML models. Next slide, please. So we just looked at enriching the profile by matching it to pre-existing information in your CRM. With this enriched profile, we can provide much more powerful recommendations to the individual. So we've accumulated a lot of information from previous CRM profiles. We also have all their browsing information and the information we get from their browser. And all of this is before they actually submit a resume. So next slide, please. The way we make these recommendations is we have built this profile, which is the second yellow box, through interactive dialogues, social media, resume uploads, chatbots, profile to lead matching, and also their browsing activity, such that we can input this into a search engine, both using text matches and syntactic matches. The results that come out of this are actually put into another AI algorithm to provide them a personalized fit score, such that when we give them job recommendations, not only do the jobs match, but they're ordered in the best possible way. Next slide. This shows up as being incredibly powerful because our profile-based recommendations have a very high conversion rate. If two candidates are to look at a profile-based recommended job, one of them is going to apply or is likely to apply. This is much higher than what we see anywhere online or in industry for recommendation engines, which have traditionally very low conversion rates. But just comparing it to our other very good conversion rate widgets, it is still better than people also viewed or similar jobs. So this profile-based recommendation actually provides a lot of lift and to the conversion rate. And at this point, I'd like to say, hey, Sean, I'm going to, hey, Sean, I hear you're going to talk about search and configuration.
I will, Bram. Thanks a lot. And while you were talking, Bram, we got a call from a viewer. Elon from Burbank chimed in and he said, cool. So there's that. That's going for you. Hey, everybody. I'm Sean O'Donnell. I want to talk to you a little bit about something that I worked on that I think is pretty neat. You know, Peter Drucker once said, if you don't measure something, you can't improve it. And I think you can clearly see today we're measuring a lot of different things. But another famous quote comes from Tony in North Philly, and he said, yo, you ain't gonna fix it with that thing. And what he was talking about is you can measure all you want, but if you don't have the right tool to adjust what you need to do, then you're not going to get anything done. So we took both Peter Drucker and Tony, and we created the search configuration tool, and I'll show you what that is. So search is obviously a very complex thing. Shrikar went into great depth about all the different things search can do, but what you may not know is that you can tweak what it can do. So whether it's the LTR, the search configuration, the dual search, the single search, the semantics, the AI that's going on, you may wonder, how do you make that personalized? And well, as engineers, we make it personalized with our search configuration tool. So we're going to run a demo of that while I tell you a little bit about it. Like I said, we developed this for the engineers to work on so that we can tweak the tools. Then we moved it to implementation, and now we're finally moving it towards the customer. So we can run that demo, and then you can see it going. I think, is it running? Probably is, probably isn't, I don't know. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, great. So you can see here as we're scrolling through the configuration tool, there's a number of different settings in here. There's actually probably too many settings to make it a simple thing, but with some training, you as a user could realize not only how your search is set up, what configuration settings are set as you come into search, but what you can change to make it more personal for the way people are searching on your website. And of course, we measure that with search score. So we see how you make a change and how the search score improves. So we think that's a really cool tool, and we'll look forward to you tweaking your search using our great tools. And with that, I'm going to bring up Dan Eggman, one of my favorite people. He's going to talk about personalized career sites. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
All yours, brother.
Thank you. So now if we advance this, my name's Dan Eggman. I'm the Director of Product for our candidate experience. And what we're going to talk about is how we personalize the content on the career site using AI for our candidates. So what our customers came to us with is they have candidates connecting to their sites from across the world, and they're interested in a wide variety of different things. So how do they provide the most relevant content to each one of these candidates without providing hundreds of different pages or just showing generic content? So in this demo, we're going to show you what we mean by content personalization. And what content personalization allows our customers to do is to provide a relevant experience for every single one of the candidates that connect to the site without the need for hundreds of different pages. And what we've built is what we call a CaaS, or a content as a service model, where our customers can put in as many pieces of content as they want that's tailored and recommended to each user. And then the AI determines what's the most relevant content to show for each user. Now, generally, content as a service platforms are very complex to use and more developer friendly than they are regular end user friendly. So what we've actually introduced is a hybrid CaaS model. And what this hybrid CaaS model allows you to do is add content in line right on the site. So as a user, I'm able to add this content. I'm able to see what it's going to look like, preview it, and tag it with all the relevant information without needing to go into a separate application and add it manually. And then once we have all this content loaded dynamically into the system, our customers are able to choose how it's shown to the candidates. So here you can see we're selecting, we want to show only testimonials for users based in Philadelphia. Or we can just choose generic personalization, and this will allow us to take the wide variety of testimonials that the customer has added to their site, and our AI will dynamically pull it in and determine what's relevant for each individual user without allowing customers to set up multiple different pages or manage different languages or locales. They can do it all in one page. And that's just one example. We also have the ability for you to personalize blogs, benefits, as well as information about different offices. So here you can see a customer has loaded hundreds of different benefits into the platform. And instead of showing them all and making the candidate go through and determine what benefits they'll receive, our AI will take a look at what's relevant to them based on the jobs they've looked at and based on the location that they're coming from. So now, if we think about, so now what we found is that showing the right content to the right candidates isn't always the perfect solution. So in this next demo, we're going to show how we're able to personalize the structure of the site based on where the candidate is within their journey. So if pulling up the next demo, we can see what we call our audiences framework. And our audiences framework allows us to personalize what is shown to each user based on where they are in their journey and where they are in the candidate journey. So some candidates aren't, when they first get to the site, they're very interested in jobs and finding that right job for them. However, after a candidate's already applied for roles, it's less about the jobs and more about why a candidate would want to work at an organization. So that's where we pull in audiences, where you can see, for example, the applicant state. We can determine, show different blogs that are relevant and specific to the candidates after they've already applied. And for new visitors, we can focus on jobs and driving them to the right job for them instead of making them go in and do all of the searching themselves. So after we managed audiences, we found one more area that really needed to be personalized, and that's the job description page. So you'll see in this next demo that the job description page is the most important page on the site. And that's because that's where most of the candidates start their journey, and that's where the conversion happens. We wanted to be able to give customers the ability to provide extremely personalized content at the specific job level. And that's where our personalized job description feature comes in. What it allows our customers to do is to take a look at different job attributes, and based on those job attributes, allows them to set specific content for each attribute. It even allows us to personalize the content at the specific job level, which will allow us to show videos of hiring managers, videos of different people specifically on that team, something that you can't do with just generic content on a standard job description page. You need to be able to specifically target each job and each job category to allow a specific job description experience. Now, and if we end that demo, all of this work that we do on the career site that you saw around search, that you saw around recommendations, that you saw around chatbot, that you saw around content, none of it's valuable unless our customers are actually seeing the results. And so with that, I'm inviting up JD to talk about the results of the personalization on our career site.
Thanks, Dan. Stay with me for a second.
Absolutely.
Again, my favorite part, just like when Jesus was talking about, right? We talked in this whole entire section around the cycle, a big part around looking at anonymous traffic and ultimately getting to know them or personalize an experience and then converting them, right? So the first thing you have to do is you have to be able to attract candidates. Candidates have to be able to come to your career site, interact with your conversational AI or your chatbot, and we're very proud that today, 350 million candidates interact with Phenom career sites or Phenom-powered career sites, and it just gets better. So when you think about, okay, well, now that you have them here, how are you personalizing that experience? We feel amazing that we deliver and serve up a personalized experience. In fact, 2,000 of them every single minute of every day, of every month, of every year. And so that number is going to continue to grow exponentially, but it just shows how important it is.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And then, okay, so you have the traffic, your 350 million candidates, you're serving the personalization. We learned a lot right now in this section around conversational AI and conversational chatbots. Again, another proud stamp of ours, over 70 million interactions we've handled over the last year. 12 months, 70 million chatbot interactions. 700,000 of them were questions that we answered. So a recruiter or a talent marketer or a sourcer, or anyone from talent acquisition or talent management didn't have to answer those questions for a candidate. They asked, they got a response immediately. That, again, is delivering a unique experience, engaging with those prospects. And of course, because it's so personalized and engaging, as we saw on another slide, it's increasing on average, increasing leads 95% and conversions into applications by 40%. So Dan, thanks for concluding that section, and we're going to go to the next one. All right. So now that we've already had happy employees in the first focus area, we shared how to kind of stop employee attrition, help them develop. We looked at how to take candidates and provide a hyper-personalized experience, making sure they converted. Now we have to talk about the recruiter. And to talk about boosting recruiter productivity with AI, I'm going to bring and ask Cliff to come up to the broadcast. I think so. Is it not Cliff?
Maggie.
Oh, it's Maggie. Sorry, it's Maggie. Maggie, you're live, on air with us, remote.
Yes, I am. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Thanks, guys. My name is Maggie Allen. I'm the Senior Director of our Solutions Consulting team. Nice to be with you today, virtually, of course. So when we think about boosting recruiter productivity with AI, right, we're trying to identify the best candidates to put in front of hiring manager. Recruiters and sourcers typically have to review so many candidate profiles, most likely hundreds, individually, and make a really quick decision if they're really good on paper. Recruiters have many challenges when trying to make these quick decisions, mostly including clarity and requirements for the role and just the sheer amount of volume of resumes that they're getting handed. Recruiters want to be perceived as the domain experts who understand job requirements and can identify the right set of candidates for their hiring teams. Next slide, please. So if you look at the typical work week of a recruiter, you can see that the top time-consuming activities include things like general reporting, client management, and internal meetings. But as we have heard, sourcing, screening, and scheduling continue to be top priority killers and productivity killers, really. These are repetitive and time-consuming tasks that have great room for optimization. So next slide, we'll take a look at one. One would argue that this is where the majority of recruiters and sourcers spend the majority of their time. So when you think of sourcing, though, this is one of the most manual tasks as it's part of their job description. Digging in and finding the needles in the haystack, how are they being done, and what tools are actually available to help these sourcers today? Well, it's manually tracking and sourcing through databases, sending endless emails, and of course, the tried and true Boolean search strings that we know all those people love. So next slide. What comes after finding these top talent on paper? It's actually screening the candidates to make sure they're a good fit for the company. So today, most recruiters look at individual resume, each individual resume, look at screening responses or assessment questionnaires if there are any, keeping an eye out for specific skills, and finally, actually picking up the phone and calling a candidate to ask them some questions that maybe came directly from a hiring manager. Next slide. After all this work of finding candidates, sourcing endless databases, and figuring out on paper if they're actually a right fit for the company, the biggest question is, are they a high quality candidate for this company? So some of the top reasons for this question is, one, is the job description may not be written as accurately or as well-defined criteria as maybe they liked. Two, are leaders and hiring managers on the same page with what's needed for the job-specific role for this company? And three, is there objective feedback? This is so variable that recruiters cannot keep up with the changing needs, and existing tools are not built to account for these changing complexities and truly help recruiters optimize their work. So, how can AI help with boosting recruiter productivity when it comes to their daily tasks like sourcing, screening, and finding the right fit? Well, Ilya Golden is up next and can help how AI can help with that. Hi, Ilya.
Hi, thank you, Maggie. So yeah, we're going to talk about how we loop AI into this interesting challenge. So as data scientists, as AI designers, what we think about is what could we predict that's useful, right? And when it comes to this task, one prediction is where can we possibly find a good high-quality fit lead, so the recruiting task, the sourcing task. And the second prediction has to do with surfacing especially promising candidates or applicants, right? You might have a potentially very large applicant pool, and you want to be able to surface strengths of the individuals within that pool to help the process be more efficient and effective. So let's roll the demo. This happens on our platform using something called AI discovery. FitScore is one component of AI discovery. So as we're going through the CRM and we're going through the AI discovery screen, what we can see is there's potentially a bunch of interesting data sources where candidates and applicants might come from. And the nice thing that we're hoping to do here, of course, Kumar, whom you've met, is an especially promising candidate in all demos. How do we surface a candidate? How do we learn the recruiter's opinion of a particular candidate? How do we then use that feedback within our system? So we really need to synthesize a whole bunch of data streams. And let's look at a diagram of how that happens. Now, I call this diagram Kumar, will you cue up the diagram for me? Oh, wonderful. I call this diagram the kind of social network relationship status diagram because it's complicated. This is a whole bunch of little modules. Some pertain to a system called the job parser. We'll hear about that in a minute. Another one pertains to a system called the resume parser. We'll hear about that also. And then the inputs from the resume parser and the job parser combine in a third system called FitScore. And FitScore itself is used in a whole bunch of ways within the platform. We'll hear about those also because you can use FitScore for recruiting. You can also use it for working with individual applicants and in several other ways. So with that said, let me introduce Arjun. And Arjun will give us some additional detail on how that system works.
Hi, this is Arjun. I'm working as a product development engineer at Phenom. So let's talk about job passing at Phenom. So job passing or resume passing is the heart of any HR tech company. And we are making sure we are at the top of the game. So let's start with the job passer journey. So whenever a new job is published, so the first thing that we try to do is identify the relevant sentences from the description. So sentences like requirement sentence or skill sentence, or it can be an experience sentence. So one of the important classification that we do is about company sentences. So this will actually skew a lot of models if we give these sentences as an input. So we make sure we remove that for any downstream services. So once we do this relevant sentence extraction, the next thing that we do is extract the skills from the job. So, and we do not send all the sentences. We send only subset of the relevant sentences to make sure we extract only relevant skills. So once we extract the skills list, so we re-rank the skills with respect to relevancy to the job based on our custom skills algorithm. So along with that, we also do experience prediction. So let's talk about like skills. The way we extract skills are two ways. One is from our in-house ontology, which is rich with the skills that we extract across the industries. And the other one is using our custom trained embedding, using skill NER with the custom trained embeddings, Phenom embeddings. We use these embeddings across like multiple deep learning models we deployed in Phenom as a platform. So even in this scenario, for this skills NER, we used our custom trained embeddings. And we used Flare framework with the embeddings I was talking about. So now the brief architecture of NER model is we give a sentence as an input sequence to the model, and we have a forward LSTM layer and a backward LSTM layer, which will concatenate again, which will learn the sequences there, try to identify the labels in the sentence, and then predict which word is actually talking about a skill in the sentence. So again, we further categorize the skills into whether it's a text skill or descriptive text skill or soft skill and so on. So now we also spoke about skill importance, right? So now we extracted a list of skills. So now do we give equal weightage to all the skills for a particular job? No. So we need to make sure that we need to identify which are the skills which are more relevant or more important to the job, and which are the other skills which are like nice to have, good to have. Even if a candidate doesn't have the skills, that's fine. But we need to make sure that we identify or bifurcate the important versus nice to have skills. So to do that, we need to rank all the skills that we have, right? So initially, we tried with a centroid-based approach where we semantically get the cosine similarity between skills and the centroid of the embedding space. And for this, again, we used our custom-trained Phenom embeddings. So this is kind of a naive approach where we are depending on the nearest word neighbor approach. So where this was not impacting much of our recommendations, and to say skills are used across multiple models, across Phenom as a product, again, data science platform. So we need to make sure that whatever ranking we do is like the top of the mark. So there we observed this skill ranking, the recommendations for the frontline jobs are particularly not that impactful. And comparatively, tech jobs are like the ranking of the tech, skills in the tech jobs are comparatively better than the frontline. So we found a need to enhance our skill importance ranking. So now we came up with a new approach where we used multiple predictive features that we already have, and then upon that we try to re-rank. Using this, we built a model to re-rank the existing skills list that we already extracted from the job. So now we used predictive fields like skill to sentence mapping, what is a job family, what is a skill to title relationship, and what is the experience of the job. And we also, in this journey through the skill importance, we identified we need a new feature, a new predictive feature, which will be helpful here to enhance our skill ranking, right? So that is skill to job family. So now we developed a new model, skill to job family, and we made sure that whenever a particular skill is extracted which doesn't belong to this particular family, we exclude it from the list. And that way we enhance the final list. So we use that predictive feature again here. And from all these different parameters, we got a refined ranked skills list. We further categorized this list again into important skills as well as nice to have skills, which will again be used across all the downstream services. And this was giving us way better results compared to the earlier approach which I was talking about. So let's move on. So I said we used NER for skills. So we also used NER across various other places to extract knowledge from the job. So we used it for skills, we used it for title, extracting relevant titles. And when I say title, we extract around like 16 to 17 different labels from title. So we observed, initially there was only extracting clean title, but from our experience, we observed there are a lot of content that is mentioned in the title. Like as I said, 16 to 17 different labels using this NER model. And we also use it for education and extracting education fields like degree, subject, etc., university. And then we also do it for extracting experience. And for experience, we use NER as well as we have a separate prediction engine which is dependent on ordinal classification. So the next important thing here is human-in-loop feedback for job passers. So we have a dedicated 50-member team who are continuously working in enriching the existing jobs as well as enriching the annotated data, and as well as whatever the models that we have predicted, the data, the labels that we have predicted, they review it and then give a feedback so that we again learn it. So it's a continuous learning process, and the annotation team is a very strong team. They have annotated around 1 million sentences until now, and 500,000 skills been annotated. And we are also supporting around 7 languages. The work is still going on. We are supporting around 7 languages right now. So, and coming to the like feedback mechanism. So we give an option to a recruiter or an annotator to go to the particular job and see what are the extracted fields, like skills or location or experience. So we give that opportunity for the recruiter or annotator to add or like modify any skill, like add or delete a particular skill if they feel otherwise, and modify experience. So once we make sure that we read this content, we store this feedback. So this feedback is again, we store this for the respective job, as well as we make sure that the same edits are replicated across all the other jobs with the matching criteria. And the matching criteria can be based on sentence, or can be based on title, or can be based on job ID. So these are the different parameters we try to identify the jobs relevant to these edits, and make sure we are reducing the workload on recruiters or annotators and enriching our model extractions. So now, whenever a new skill is added, which is not part of our in-house ontology, we add it to that list and make sure that we extract those skills in the relevant domain next time. And along with that, as I said, our efficiency has increased. With this mechanism, our efficiency has increased by 85 to 90%. So the jobs have been enriched by this new knowledge, and we have make sure that the manual intervention of either a recruiter or a feedback annotator has reduced drastically with the same percentage. And now we also add these new skills, this delta new skills to our already trained skill NER model, so that our model learns, our model updates itself. And whenever a new job is posted, contextually we make sure that the skills that are added, the semantic similar skills are also part of the extractions. So this is again, it goes back to the recruiter and annotator edits. So it's a cyclic process. It's a continuous learning that we are doing, and the machine gets better and better each day. So this is our strong human in loop feedback that we are following at Phenom. So I was talking about giving an opportunity or option for a user, recruiter or annotator to edit the skills for location. So this is how it looks for a recruiter annotator. So whenever a new job is posted, all the job process starts, and we extract all the skills and titles, and we give an option for the user whether to edit, or if the job is already been edited from the previous job. So once they click on the job description here, you can see the job description, and all the skills that are extracted are highlighted on the job description. And on the right hand side, you can see all this extracted fields, right? So what are the top important skills that are mandatory and nice to have skills, which are in gray. So when you scroll down, we also extract experience, as I mentioned. So there are two ways of extraction. One is NER, as well as we have a custom built model trained for experience. So this is how it looks for a recruiter or annotator to give the feedback. So let's talk about resume parser at Phenom. The resume parser, basically we tried every other resume parser in the market that we have, but no parser has hit the mark. So many of the parsers that we have in the market are keyword-based searched and requires extensive dictionary to maintain it. So even so, there will be a lot of scenarios where it doesn't perform good on new skills or titles observed across various industries that we have. And we experienced it with all the parsers that we have in the market. So this led us to develop our own custom resume parser using deep learning models, which will identify the relevant sections, extract relevant content from different formats of a resume. So currently our resume parser is standing at a success rate of 99% and with an accuracy or fill-up ratio more than 95%. So let's see how the flow of a resume parser looks like in the platform. So a typical resume looks like this, and if a candidate uploads a resume in the platform, so first we try to identify the language and the headers based on the font size, color, or position of a particular text in the resume. So from these particular positions, we also try to identify the sections which are part of these headers. So once we identify these these sections, we run a classifier model to classify these sections into various fields like company name, job title, or education, etc. And once these classifiers are done, we pass these classifiers to our NER models, multiple NER models which extracts like fields like industry, employee name, what is the period, universities the candidates have worked in, etc. Along with that, we also extract personal information like email, mobile number, and LinkedIn URLs using some rule-based approach. So all these NER models that we are talking about are custom built and with respect to individual section. So we make sure that we doesn't use all the content which is part of the resume, but we make sure only relevant content is passed to the relevant NER so that we optimize and we could get the response in microseconds in real time. And also one important thing with resume is whenever a candidate might have like 10 years of experience or so, and you might have worked in multiple companies, and you would have changed domains from earlier company, like from a let's say frontliner to a software job. So we make sure that all the recent skills are given higher weightage and given that ranking compared to the older skills. So we differentiate that at the back end. So we make sure all the downstream services considers this the recent skills, which are again used in a lot of recommendations as well as candidate recommendations as well as fit score. Thank you.
Thank you for that summary, Arjun. We've just heard about the job parser and the resume parser. Both of those are, of course, inputs to another model called FitScore that I mentioned earlier. So let's hear from Vaibhav on how FitScore works.
Hello everyone, this is Vaibhav and I'm here to talk about FitScore. So FitScore helps boost recruiter productivity by scoring every applicant and lead on the CRM. FitScore depends on 4 major criteria: skills, title, experience, and location. The weightage given to each of these attributes changes from every job to job. Example, for a frontline worker, location has the highest relevance and hence given the highest weight. Whereas for a knowledge worker, title and skills is given the highest weight. As we have seen, the FitScore depends on these 4 parameters. The recruiter can change any of these fields to further improve the FitScore. Here we see that the recruiter can remove any unwanted skill, add a new skill, change the top skills, which will impact the FitScore to give us a better recommendation. Along with this, the recruiter can also change the location radius and the experience. The recruiter also has an option to shortlist a candidate and add the email address of this candidate as an ideal candidate in the job description page. Ideal candidate will help us automatically learn important attributes from candidate features and improve the recommendation. We also have a supervised FitScore model which leverages neural nets to get you the best fit candidate for a job. The neural net works in such a way that any candidate who is in the positive hiring status, such as post-interview or as well as interviewing, is marked as a positive hire, whereas a candidate who's been rejected without an interview is being marked as a negative candidate. This data is fed into the neural network so that we can learn patterns which the recruiter hires for a job. This neural network will help us identify the best candidate for the job. In production today, we use a combination of supervised FitScore and the earlier weighted model we had discussed. So how does the supervised FitScore model work? Supervised FitScore model takes in job and candidate and has the feature of job family, job zone, title embedding, and job embedding from the Phenom graph embeddings, as we had discussed earlier. These embeddings are sent into a neural network, which is a CNN network, and followed by a fully connected neural net, which is trained over a triplet loss function. The idea is to have a maximum distinction between a positive and a negative candidate. As we have seen, we capture explicit feedback as well. We also take implicit feedback in the form of ads and dismisses from AI discovery to improve the recommendation over the time. And FitScore is always evolving and it learns more about your hiring looking at the recruiter actions. We know that every company hires differently and hence we have multiple ways in which we calculate feedback. For example, we may have feedback based on job family, job zone, or industry specific. The feedback which works best for your company is automatically selected using reinforcement learning. We use multi-amp bandits for this. So how does feedback improve? Let's look at some of the stats. Here we see 3 different company before and after feedback stats. On the red, you see the people who have been rejected, and on the green, you see people who have gone beyond interview. We see that over a period of time, we have correctly classified people who have gone past interview. So what's the metric of FitScore? FitScore's metric is currently 85%. The top domains where FitScore excels is life, physical and social sciences, management occupations, computer and mathematical operations. And the job family, where we are still evolving, is sales and related occupations, office and administrative occupation, production, and transport and material occupations. That's it from my end. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Vaibhav, for walking us through the FitScore models. Absolutely insightful. So we obviously know that FitScore is a very important recruiter productivity insight that we have in the product. But let's shift our focus to recruiter personalization. So this is a new thing that we are working on, and we would like to share what that demo looks like. Before we go there, recruiter personalization was developed with the motivation that we shouldn't really tell recruiters what to do. They know what to do in the product. They know who they want to hire, who they want to interview, who they want to shortlist, and they know the activity. But what is challenging for a recruiter today is they have a lot of jobs, they have a lot of candidates they are dealing with, and they have their own world where there's a lot of activity happening. So we want to take the recruiter personalization concept to really mine some of this activity and provide some key insights to recruiters to help them stay on top of their work. So before we get started, we wanted to share the inspiration for us for building this, right? So we inspired from Spotify, and Spotify has something called as a taste graph, which really builds a graph of every listener and identifies their tastes and personalizes music based on that. So we took the same inspiration and built the same thing for the recruiter. So we know who the recruiter is, we know what jobs they are assigned to, what pipelines they're working on, and we also know what their preferences are, how they're using their products and capabilities to really help close on candidates. So let's take a look at a demo, and I'll show you what the product looks like.
Okay, so the first step will be the personalization flow. The flow goes that way.
So what you see here is an onboarding step for a first-time recruiter coming into the platform, right? So they're coming here and they're greeted to take on the step. And
when clicking Let's Start will lead you to choose a job title from a list, for example.
He's the audio. He's the audio.
Yeah. All right, so what you see here is as soon as a new recruiter comes into the platform, we ask the recruiter their title. Just by knowing their title, we have models that predict what are the best journeys that they need to take. So think of a title of a talent acquisition specialist versus a talent acquisition manager. Although it looks similar, they are slightly different. So once they are on the platform, we know exactly what journeys they need to take, and we onboard the recruiter onto those optimized journeys. So here, recruiters can assign unassigned lists and look at their candidates, and we also have some quick tips to help recruiters onboard onto those journeys, right? So this is a personalized dashboard based on that. And now we are looking at a talent marketer, right? So the talent marketer could be a little bit different, and they could have a different personalized experience depending on what we have analyzed based on our AI models that their optimized journeys look like. So we can really onboard them onto the right journeys here. So again, they have some quick helpful tips on what parts of the product they can go into. And this is again a talent marketer that we just spoke about, but in our ecosystem, we've seen there are several users, recruiters, sourcers, and talent marketers who have hybrid functions as well. So we can account for those in the platform. So what you're seeing here is really a new recruiter who's onboarded and really has jobs and applicants assigned to them. So we can really look at what is happening in the environment. Here we just got a new video interview that got assigned or came in, and the recruiter can just forward that to the hiring manager. Depending on the hiring status of candidates, we can automatically recommend what the next actions they need to take on the platform. And that action can differ for different jobs, right? So here, for a candidate who's being interviewed, we have a request feedback kind of an action. But that same call to action could differ for different statuses. So we can constantly keep learning based on changing ecosystems and really come up with recommendations. So here are jobs, right? So depending on the status of jobs, we have the ability to measure how the job is performing and show the right insights. And the widgets really change as we go forward, right? So we have, again, multiple personas. We have a recruiter who's really launching a campaign in this use case, and you can see how the dashboard really personalizes based on that. So as soon as they click on, let's say, different parts of the product and have a lot of activity, the dashboard really personalizes according to their taste. So that's really the whole idea of the recruiter personalization, looking at their whole world, looking at some of those key insights within all the activity that they're performing, and really bringing the right call to action to the dashboard. So with this, I'd like to call upon Sean, who's going to talk us through some of the outcomes that we've received throughout the recruiter experience.
Thanks, Kumar.
All right,
Thanks
buddy.
so much, bud. All right, everybody, I'm back, and I'm going to talk to you about my favorite thing, some impact that we have with the recruiter experience. You know, as a product manager, the reason I wake up every day is to make an impact on somebody I've never met, and that's the recruiter out there. So what you're seeing now on the screen is, well, what's the average time to hire or the time to fill a role out in the industry across all industries, across all platforms? It's about 42 days. So when you open a job to when it's filled and your job as a recruiter is done, that's 42 days. So how are we impacting that? Well, our platform on the whole, we diminish that to 21 days. So the average time to fill a role on our system is 21 days. Now, how can we improve that even more? Well, that's where FitScore comes in, and when we measure what FitScore is doing, we see it's making a huge impact here. So A fits and B fits, 17, 18 days, C fits, 21 days, and if you're not a fit, typically we fill that role in 25 days. So our average time to fill when you're using FitScore becomes 20 days. Which is even less than across the entire platform. So that's pretty exciting. I like to show that impact. That's why we do this for recruiters. Here's the other reason we do this and interject AI into their day. So if you think about all that a recruiter does, and we talked about sourcing being the biggest activity, we said to ourselves, how can we knock that down? So in the last year, almost 80,000 times our AI has gone out and it's searched all the bins that you can find talent in. That could be inside your CRM and other jobs. It could be employees that are currently working one position and may want to move. Or it could be cloud profiles are out there, LinkedIn profiles and such like that, where it's out there scouring these pots and pans, trying to find the best candidate for you. Then we serve it up and we say, hey, I think I found somebody. And 79,923 times this year, a recruiter said, holy smokes, you got me the right person. And they added them to the job, and they're now in the interview process. And when you go back to our goal of helping 1 billion people find the right job, here's about 80,000 people that we found just this year. Not that we found, that the AI has found. So those are some really cool impacts. I hope you find them as exciting as I do. Speaking of exciting, I'm going to bring Ilya back up to talk a little bit more about data science things and maybe a dad joke or two. I don't know, but
I might know a couple of dad jokes. Thank you, Sean.
There you go, bud.
All right, so we're going to we've been talking about all of these interesting questions of AI, data science, recruiter productivity, and so forth, how we identify anonymous visitors, for instance. But a critical question is, as we build all of this technology, are we building technology for fairness? Are we building technology for equitable treatment? So those are some of the issues that I've been thinking about quite a bit over the last, over my time at Phenom, really. And I want to make sure that we know how to think about these issues rigorously, deeply, right? And we just didn't have that kind of expertise at Phenom to start. And now we have a little more of it, thanks to a person that I'm about to introduce, and that's about to join me on stage for a little chat. His name is Jeff Weekly. Jeff is a professor at School of Management at the University of Texas, Dallas. He has been, he is an industrial organizational psychologist by training, so he has been studying these issues for quite some time. He is a prolific scholar. His papers, as of this morning, have been cited over 3,500 times. 25 of those papers have been cited at least 25 times each. So that's a tremendous impact of his scholarship on the world of industrial organizational psychology and on how we think about work and how we want to analyze data from all of these processes. So Jeff, welcome. Please come and join me for a little conversation.
All right. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. I didn't quite know who you were talking about there at first, but it's my pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
So glad you could be here. So, Jeff, tell me, why are we bringing you here, right? What is the connection that we need to make between my world of AI and your world of industrial organizational psychology?
Yeah, it's a great question. So IO is concerned with the study of behavior at work. And certainly one of the things that IO psychologists have historically studied is this question of selection. We spent decades trying to figure out new and better ways of hiring people. And as AI gets applied to that same question, not surprisingly, a lot of the IO community has gotten very curious about it. And are those applications appropriate? Maybe the biggest question that the IO psychology community is asking is, are those AI-inspired selection tools going to be, for example, compliant with the uniform guidelines? As most of the HR community knows, the government put out guidelines quite some time back regarding what constitutes a test, and that's basically anything that is used for hiring. And has established very thorough standards that those tests must meet in order to be used for selection. So again, the curiosity is piqued. I think it would be an understatement in terms of the application of AI to selection.
Excellent. So I understand that these kinds of issues get discussed at, say, Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology, where you're a fellow. And I understand that there's quite a bit of interest in the field. Now, as these guidelines, as we AI developers think about these guidelines, do we need to, and we want to make sure that our technology and our customers using our technology are in compliance with these guidelines. Right. Do we need to worry about compliance with the guidelines in literally everything we do, or are there some areas that are not subject to the guidelines?
Great question. So under the heading of talent acquisition, I think in terms of recruitment and selection. And the guidelines are very clear that they do not apply to the issue of recruitment. And in fact, they point out that some organizations, if they have an affirmative action plan, they may need to target particular groups. If they're underrepresented relative to women, for example, or people of color, they may need to have very targeted recruitment programs to meet their goals. So the guidelines carve out recruitment as an area to which they do not apply. Now selection, anything that determines who gets the job would be under the auspices of the guidelines and should be followed.
Okay, so if, say, we have the fit score algorithm that could be used for both recruiting and selection. In the one case, under recruiting, it would not fall under the guidelines.
In my view, no.
But when it's applied to selection context, the guidelines would apply.
If it's having any impact on, again, who gets the job, who gets hired, then yes, it would need to comply with the standards.
So what does it mean to comply with the standards? What are the standards? How do we think about them?
The standard's very simple, two-part test, if you will. The first requirement is that any process or practice used in making hiring decisions do no harm, does not create adverse impact, as an example. What's adverse impact? We'll get to that, I think, but the hiring rates, for example, for men and women should be roughly the same. If they aren't, there would be evidence of adverse impact, and that process would become under question. Now, if the organization still wants to use that practice, even though it generates adverse impact, it's okay, they can, if they can demonstrate that it's job-related and that there is not an alternative that is equally effective yet less discriminatory. So there's additional hurdles they would have to clear if there is evidence of adverse impact.
Adverse impact. So I'm slightly offended that we now have another AI in this conversation, but
it's going to be problematic to keep them separate, right?
I'll try and handle this. So we have this notion of adverse impact. Can you help us understand what that is and how it works?
Sure. Adverse impact exists when the hiring rate for one group is substantially less than the hiring rate for another group. And it could be that the hiring rate for women is substantially less than the hiring rate for men, blacks less than whites, blacks less than Hispanics, any comparison between two groups. So the definition is fairly straightforward, right? A substantially different hiring rate. What constitutes substantial is where it gets a little fuzzy, because there is, unfortunately, no single definition or standard that can be applied to determine if it is the difference is substantial. The two most commonly used tests would be the 4/5 test, also called the 80% rule, and the other would be tests of statistical significance. What is the 4/5 rule? Compare the hiring rate for the focal group to the hiring rate for the comparison group. The comparison group, by the way, is always the group with the highest selection rate. And as long as they are within 80% of one another, you're okay. Let's give a concrete example. Let's say men were hired at the higher rate than women. And let's say that rate was 20%. So 1 out of 5 men who applied get hired. As long as the hiring rate for women was at least 80% of that, in other words, 16% or better, you would have no evidence of adverse impact. If it were to fall below that, say 13% of the women who applied got hired, you would have a problem. The second test are tests of statistical significance, and there are a number of them, but the most common is the two standard deviation test, sometimes called the Z-test. But effectively what we do there is to compare the hiring ratios of two groups to what we would expect. And if that difference is greater than what you would expect by chance, there is a statistically significant difference, then you would, again, have evidence of adverse impact. And most organizations would be well advised to conduct both types of tests to determine if they've got an issue.
So it sounds like there's probably some methodology here that's fairly sophisticated and fairly spelled out by these guidelines and fairly formal that we would want to be able to follow. Doesn't sound like something we would want to be doing manually every day. It would be nice to automate.
No, especially the statistical tests, they can be challenging.
Right. But if we could automate this, and if we could present results to decision makers in a nice comprehensible way, then perhaps that could go some way to relieving compliance concerns and to actually promulgating more fair, more equitable hiring
Yeah, absolutely. I think best practice for any organization is that it evaluate its hiring practices on a regular basis. Certainly the large job families, for example. Are the bottom line outcomes fair in the sense that there is no adverse impact? And the guidelines are real clear. If you show that there is no adverse impact, then you are in compliance and you're done. If you do find evidence of adverse impact, then you need to begin to break the process down and look for adverse impact at each of the various steps. Maybe it's the screening step, maybe it's the testing step, the interview step. but you want to look for the potential of adverse impact at each of those steps so you can fix it, basically. Hone in on the area that may be causing the problem, modify that step, delete it if you need to, but do whatever actions you have to take to cure the problem.
And so you want to analyze adverse impact at different steps in the hiring process. Are there other variables that would be useful to disaggregate this sea of data? Do you want to group all the jobs together, or?
Well, you need to do it by job or job family, where the selection processes are effectively the same. If you've got very different selection processes, you don't want to mix effectively apples and oranges and see if there's adverse impact, because you can't disaggregate what's going on in that case. So you need to have a consistent hiring process, and as long as it's consistent across a variety of jobs within a family, you would certainly want to look at that.
That really resonates, because we've been, as you've heard from the job parser presentation and some other ones earlier today, job family from the ONET model developed by the US Department of Labor, that's really resonated with some of our other efforts. So there's a nice connection there. Thank you for that summary. So what working with Jeff has taught me is that really, if we want to build fair and equitable technology, right, we want to, the mission of Phenom, right, is help 1 billion people find the right job. And it's not just some group of people, it's a global mission, right? We want to help 1 billion people all over the planet, all kinds of people, find the right job. And that means that we need to develop AI in a fair and equitable way. We need to try to optimize for some of these outcomes that are socially significant and socially important. And it's not easy, as we just heard from Jeff. And so that's something that we've been working on. And it's a three-prong approach, if you will. On the first prong, first part of this is that we want to develop technology for measuring the impact of our AI. Like we just heard from Sean, you can't change what you don't measure. So that's why, right, when we collect the sea of data that we collect, we want to make sure that our AI plays fairly, acts equitably in the sea of applicants, the sea of leads, candidates, and so forth that it comes into contact with. Another aspect, another prong of this approach is that we want to work with our customers, right? So right now, you're about to see a demo of something we're calling the Adverse Impact Dashboard. The Adverse Impact Dashboard is our first step, certainly not our last step, in creating measurement tools and bringing these measurement tools to customers so that we can help customers look at their own data, their own jobs, their own candidates, their own processes, using these standardized tools that follow the best practices that we just heard about from Jeff. And third, we have a bunch of important technology to build. We need to innovate in the space of, not just in the space of AI for talent acquisition, but in the space of AI for fair and equitable talent acquisition. And so, by the way, we're hiring. If you have the skills to work at the intersection of industrial organizational psychology and AI and data science and NLP and all of those other fun things, if those are interesting to you and you have skills in that space, reach out. We want to talk. So with that said, let's have James walk us through the Adverse Impact Dashboard and some of the user experiences that it enables in terms of analyzing processes and talent acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilya. Can we go next slide? So we've been working on this for quite a while, and our goal to address these challenges has been to create a dashboard that can help companies monitor for the presence of adverse impact within their own pools of jobs and candidates. And own pools is specific wording here because we can use this both to ingest data created through a company's use of Phenom tools and Phenom services, but we can also ingest companies' own EEO data. Whichever way we are able to receive or be granted EEO data on a company's hiring practices, we can put it within this dashboard and provide some fairly informative monitoring of ongoing trends. So once we have the data, we can use this to compute adverse impact statistics in alignment with any company's internal reporting practices across a pretty broad breadth of methods applied. And to show this plot in specific, what we're looking at here is a scatter plot of women's 4/5 rule scores and correlating it against a cut score on a test. In this case, as mentioned earlier, the 4/5 score is showing the rate of crossing a hiring threshold relative to the effective majority group. So here we see that women were being hired at almost exactly the same rate as men, and that as we dialed up the significance of the cut score, we didn't really see any change or drop off. So this is great. Next slide, please. However, if we want to evaluate impacts by additional demographics, we have those. We have the ability to apply this for race, ethnicity, disability, veteran status, or gender, whatever is needed. Next slide, please. Likewise, the broad view of the company doesn't always tell the entire story. We can break this down by granular job families within a company and see if there's more specific challenges that need to be addressed. There's a couple things to note here. For one, the majority is effective for each given job family, so it will not always be the same group, and it's not a reflection of population majorities. Likewise, some job families you'll see are not showing adverse impact at any cut score, whereas others develop it after a certain point. This gives you a sense of where your challenges may lie with adverse impact and bias, and what steps you may take to address or avert it. We can also take all this aggregate data within the dashboard and export it for clients for internal reporting and analysis purposes. Next slide, please. And this isn't the only thing we're working on. While I'm very excited to introduce this dashboard, we're not done yet. If you look at our future goals as a company, these tools create a lot of opportunities to bring some of this rich data and analyses into our AI and to build additional tools and interfaces on top of it for recruiters and hiring managers to work with. Firstly, we're working on a bias early warning detection system, hoping to detect subtle shifts in employee hiring trends. The idea here is that we can notice or notify managers if a bias is starting to develop so they can monitor the situation more closely. Secondly, we're looking into hiring process mining. This addresses the question of when a bias comes apparent, how do you find and mollify its source? For example, you might see that one group is hired equitably, yet is poorly represented among the higher job levels. In process mining, we can investigate deeply to figure out whether this is a challenge in hiring, a challenge in promotion, retention, what job levels it's happening at, give a much more specific target for process improvement. Lastly, we're working on tools to evaluate search parameter equity. We want to help recruiters craft the best, most selective queries that will yield them the greatest abundance of strong candidates without introducing undue and unproductive bias into the system. That's all. Thank you for your time, and here's JD.
Yeah, James, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the entire team of providing those set of demos that I know a lot of folks in the industry really appreciate, because we've been going in depth today and providing what's explainable behind the scenes. But boosting recruiter productivity is no good if they don't have a product that they truly love. And once again, a proud moment for Phenom. We have over 50,000 recruiters, sourcers, talent marketers that use our recruiter experience. And that equates to some amazing things. So once you have your talent acquisition, talent management teams using recruiter experience, well, you have to serve them and give them something that's useful. We learned a lot about FitScore today and how that impacts the ability to connect with and convert candidates into employees. And in this case, Phenom serves every day 11 million FitScores, every single day to the recruiters. And it's not just serving. It's not just providing a platform or technology. It's what can you use from a technology perspective to give back. In this year alone, Phenom has given back to talent acquisition professionals over 40 million minutes using Phenom scheduling. So once again, we're proud of the products we've built. We're proud of our customers' usage of those products and the impact they're having in the industry. And so as we go towards our fourth focus area and our fourth problem statement, it's around intelligent automation of frontline workers. And I want to welcome back to the broadcast Mahe. Yep. Thanks, Mahe.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, JD.
Yeah, you got it.
So if you really look at like what's happening in the market right now, especially for frontline workers, think about this. The high volume hiring has drastically changed across every part of the world. Think of a couple of areas, right? Like if you look at like what is happening in the middle of COVID to what is right now. There are thriving industries in the middle of COVID, and there are recovering industries. The problem what happened is the areas where they were thriving, whether it's logistics or whether you talk about like supermarkets or certain areas, manufacturing, people were constantly hiring. But whereas in recovering industries, especially the travel, think about hospitality, these industries in the middle of COVID basically let go most of the people in talent acquisition and the talent management space. And there is a lot of people movement across all these industries. Almost every leader has really changed their designations. They have moved up or down or really moved to a different company altogether. Because of this, there is a different level of a problem what really we are seeing across the customers in this industry. If you take hiring volume, hiring is right now is tightened like crazy. The speed and cost have actually drastically changed. Now, there is also one other element which you also have to think about. All of a sudden, the easier to hire people became essential workforce. Because these are the people who stood in the line when COVID was at the peak level. And if you look at like just the compensation, over 35% increase in every particular job hire in a high volume hiring right now, what you're really seeing. And there are a number of challenges right now you're really seeing. Once you really think about like what the challenges are, think about process inefficiencies. They're humongous. Candidate experience. Right now, people are really using different kinds of tools and technologies compared to what they were. Everything used to be centralized. Right now, everything is decentralized. Especially if you're a global company, you are definitely decentralized. The reason is by country, by state, by location, you have different laws, different policies. And then people used to do blind marketing, just really throw money onto job boards or really put some money on certain ads. That is not working the way it used to. On top of it, hiring bias. Think about a single channel. People used to use web or in person. That's all they really used to. Like tons of people leave. It's a high volume because your churn is so high. On top of it, it's a resource heavy infrastructure. Your whole talent acquisition teams are very, very heavy. And most of the people in this particular arena, especially in the talent ecosystem, are all participating. Now, what we need to do is, in this particular circumstance, we have to start thinking this a bit differently. We have to move from the old way of doing recruiting to a new way of doing recruiting. If we continue what we do, we flounder. If you want to flourish, you have to think differently. That's where intelligent automation really comes into picture. Can you think about process inefficiency? You move towards intelligent automation. Poor candidate experience to personalized candidate experiences. Think about centralized hiring to decentralized hiring. On top of it, think specifically how you use your current data to rediscover people whom you have spoken to. It's not about bias, it's about diversity and inclusion. On top of everything, it's not about participation, it's about empowerment. If you want to think of these things for really making sure your intelligent automation has to work, there is only one fundamental reason why you want to really go here. That is, you want to bring productivity through decentralized talent ecosystem. That's what every major company is going through. You have to think about humans, intelligence automation, and contextual process optimization based on the type of the job, type of the location, what type of the category you're hiring for. You have to constantly think differently. If you're hiring for a store, your process optimization is different. If you're hiring for, let's say, your fulfillment center, your process optimization has to be different. So how do you really play these three things in a very intelligent, effective way is where the next game for the next 10 years is going to be, especially in the frontline workforce. And now think of this from an experience point of view. You have to drastically increase the experience throughout the journey. Whatever the tools you're using today, you can stick to the tools, but the most important thing is question, are you really giving the right kind of an experience? You all know what Phenom offers, but after COVID has started, what we realized was with the kind of data and the intelligence what we have, with what you have seen for the last 2 hours, we have collected a lot of different patterns. And from there, we created a newer layer in intelligence. We call that intelligence automation. The intelligent automation is about like which particular pieces we can think about automating throughout the talent lifecycle. And that's where we really got into what we really looked at is for traffic management. The second one is workflow orchestration. How can we use workflow orchestration in a way you can help the overall process more streamlined, but yet automated? Then we have used recipes. How can you really configure these recipes so that you can connect the dots together? On top of it, process optimization. Process optimization has 2 different steps. One is process mining. The second one is you have to use extensive fit score infrastructure. Who are the right fit? Then think about bots, whether it's an SMS conversation or a chat conversation or any other conversation. How do you really bring these things together? On top of it, you have to look at scheduling and screening. So we brought all these products together and really created this new layer. And this layer is primarily driven by process optimization and artificial intelligence combined together. This is not new. Gartner calls this as a hyper-automation. This is there in other industries. Especially for talent acquisition for frontline, this cannot be deployed because they're all back-end systems. What we really brought into this is how can you really tie up your experience to the back-end systems in an effective format, all by using AI skills, machine learning models, workflow orchestration, and also really look at process optimization. But the most important thing is your native integrations has to work effectively. On top of it, your advanced analytics has to be configured in such a way you can measure it very effectively. So what is that you will do in the intelligence automation? The first thing you will think about is what is your current employees' time spent really goes after. What does that mean is percentage you really look at, like, let's say a recruiter or a manager. You look at like what is their activity today, and you look at like what is individually they are doing versus collaboratively and what the other sections are. In the individual space, what are they thinking, what are they researching, and what are the administrative tasks? And you also look at in a collaboration space, what is productive and non-productive and what is social. Now you can really look at like how much time they're spending on specifically for talent acquisition and talent management. And you can start thinking, what are the work activities that we can really take away from these people so that they need not go after this tedious task which they are doing every day. And let us move them towards what is the ideal state where they can engage with people in a much more thoughtful way. Right now, every person who wants to join a company or every employee who is working for a company is looking for, can I connect to the company? Can you spend more quality time, which is more productive, rather than doing this administrative tasks or unproductive tasks which are not useful for anybody? That's where intelligence automation really comes into the front line. There are 3 things which you have to do. The first one is automation. The second one is augmentation. And the third one is abandoning tasks which are not required anymore. And you can really space this out, how you can really take your current time spent, where is this overall structure really looks like, how do you readjust this, and then right now you put a process flow together. Where you'll use humans, where is your intelligence automation going to sit like, and then you really think about what is a contextual process optimization you will think. And in this process, you have to keep in mind, you have to have a strategy and a roadmap. You should identify automation leaders within your talent ecosystem, especially in the talent acquisition. For onboarding and other areas, people have used automation. That is more for back-end systems. But now you're talking about everything is coming into the front end. Experience is a must-have. And in that, you have to really define the process effectively. Then how do you really think about implementation initiatives for automation? And that is something which you have to really think through and have clear governance around it. Then you have to go into driving your employees to trust this process and think it's their own benefit. See, whatever you're doing with automation, don't think like it's basically replacing people. Before COVID, the whole argument about AI is going to replace every person's job. After COVID, or as the COVID is dialing down, the whole conversation is how much AI can take away from my day-to-day tasks. So this basically accelerated everything 10 years forward in just a year. Now you have to think about how you can have that conversation in an effective format. And you also have to think, when you're driving the enterprise with the data, you have to think how to really upskill and cross-skill your existing talent ecosystem. If you don't really upskill and cross-skill, people really have inhibitions about is this automation really going to make a different thing altogether than what I'm really doing today. But for that, you have to do experimentation and you have to do it at scale. So what does experimentation really means? Let's say you're hiring for drivers. That's a very hard job to fill. You don't want to do a lot of automation. You want to do only 30% automation. If you're hiring for retail store manager, maybe 70%. If you're hiring for, let's say, pickers or package handlers, probably you have to do it 95% automation. So you have to think about which portion you will automate, which portion you won't, and how do you experiment, and how do you experiment based on each particular thing. That's what you need to do. So now I'll ask Kumar to really show you the demo of this product and how it works.
All right. Thank you, Mahe. And I'm back and really excited to show you what the frontline automation product we've built. So what I'm going to show you is some of the capabilities that are there in our existing product that we've repurposed and used AI and automation to achieve the kind of scale and build a platform that supports this experimentation methodology that Mahe is talking about in our platform. So let's get right into it. So what you're seeing here is the CRM, and let's go into one job, right? This is an in-store shopper, and we want to hire there. So as soon as the job is open, the AI discovery that we've always spoke about can now start really bringing in candidates and matching them to jobs based on your past applicants. So you don't have to really look at new people, but the type of data points that it can use, it can start looking at your working rights, your shift availability, the weekly hours, what employment type you are hiring for, and that can become an automation engine to start inviting your past applicants to the job. Candidates coming in through the funnel, they can be scored using the same framework. So now we have hiring managers. Hiring managers don't sit in front of laptops, so you need to give them a mobile optimized experience. And they're not going to use your corporate calendars to look at free busy times. So can we give hiring managers the ability to set their interview availability times in the product so that the scheduling AI can just look at their open availability and start scheduling not just one-to-one interviews, but group interviews as well. So that's a key aspect to it. It can either be recruiter-initiated interviews, or it could be completely automated for some of the seasonal hires that you want to have, right? And here, you see how candidates can go and self-select times on their own. But we've also built in AI and our NLP framework that we spoke previously into the rescheduling use case. Now we have the hiring manager app that we've built that gives a really quick and easy way to evaluate candidates, to take quick actions, provide feedback, and just proceed with the onboarding and offer steps. So it's almost like an Uber-like an experience, right? So when you need a ride, you just open the app and you take the right steps and you're done and you move on. So we wanted to give a similar experience for our frontline hiring teams to hire more people in a very efficient fashion. So this is a quick overview of how we can use our platform to optimize your frontline hiring. And next, I'd like to invite Shiva to talk us through how we've used this existing framework to optimize early talent hiring in our company.
Hi, this is Sivanand, part of Phenom engineering team. Early talent hiring is very important for enterprises. The challenge is, from a huge pool of graduates coming out of colleges, schools, we have to source, screen, assess, do interviews, and then select. At Phenom, we have automated early talent hiring workflow using our AI platform, workflow orchestration, and rule engines. This is done to connect between multiple services and products to make this end-to-end automation happen. Once the job description is created, by the way, you can leverage the power of our video job description too. Video testimonials from alumni employees, content recommendations powered by our AI can be added to the job descriptions. Different kinds of assessments can be configured, including integration with third-party platforms like HackerRank and HackerRate. After that, you can go ahead and set up automated video assessments, interviewing scheduling as well. As part of interview scheduling, we can also configure video interviewing. Once this is set up, the automation workflow triggers outreach by distributing this job description to job boards, various social media platforms, training institutes, universities and colleges. By the way, for when we distribute this to universities and colleges, we can add alumni testimonials, video testimonials from employees. Also, it triggers email campaigns via our CRM and also enables referrals through our internal mobility platform. Now, after that outreach, we have a good pool of early talent candidates sourced from this. From the source pool of early talent candidates, our screening automation identifies the best fit using our fit score capabilities. At Phenom, we use supervised machine learning model for our fit score, and it helps finding the best fit. All the hiring statuses and transitions are captured. Eventually, all this data is fed into a supervised neural network model, which learns from these preferences and transitions, and that helps us give better fit score. After identifying the right fits, assessments are triggered for these A and B fit candidates automatically. Candidates who pass through this assessment based on the defined criteria, now they are moved to the video assessment flow automatically. Video assessment automation uses our speech-to-text models and transformer-based architecture models. It also scores the assessment, which helps in making the decisions automatically. After this step, the workflow triggers interview scheduling automation workflow, where you can choose to have video interviews as well. This brings you to the offer management stage. As you can see, the end-to-end automation, to make this resilient, we have the ability to define retries, rollbacks, or even have a human intervention step in the case of a failure. We can send reminders to candidates interviewers. It can wait for signals from different products or personas or various integrations, either to resume or pause the workflow or a step. 95% of automation helped in cutting the overall effort and schedule by 80%.
All right, thanks a lot, Shiva. That was great. So now, where do you take it from here? So we have the product, and it's being used in certain use cases. And now you might be thinking, how should I really think about automation and intelligent AI driving my frontline hiring? And next, we are going to talk about the automation maturity model. So this is something that we've established to help you think about where you are in your journey from an automation perspective and how to really think about onboarding automation to your enterprise. To talk about this topic, I'd like to invite Adam Thompson, and here you are, Adam. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Kumar. Super excited to introduce our talent acquisition automation maturity model to everybody. We created this model, as Kumar said, to help companies better understand how intelligent automation can be applied to the world of talent acquisition, better understand their current level of maturity, what their next steps might look like on this automation path that they're on, and what is ultimately possible for them to achieve. If you go next slide. What we've done is we dug deeply into every process that is commonly used within a recruitment flow. So from planning all the way down through to analytics. And we've also looked deeply at the different types of technology that companies at each stage of maturity are commonly using. The model has 5 different levels to it. So starting at the far left-hand side, you would see an organization that has essentially no task automated yet, and where things are essentially all happening manually. Don't be nervous. There are a lot of organizations that are still living in that world, so it's completely okay to have that be your starting point. The next step would be for companies that are really getting started with automation, and getting started doesn't have to be scary. It just means taking a few small steps forward and implementing a few tools that are going to help automate some of those more tedious, more painful tasks. At level 3, we're seeing companies that are beginning to scale their use of automation. They're beginning to realize some real productivity gains within their recruiter base. And they've already automated away several of the most time-consuming and tedious tasks, both for internal users and for their candidates. At level 4, that's where we're seeing the more mature organizations live, that have implemented quite a lot of automation into their process flow. And finally, at level 5, that's really the pinnacle. That's where essentially all of the tedious routine tasks have been automated. Candidates are having fully personalized experiences where they're really able to guide their own journey, and where organizations are seeing very high levels of productivity gains within their talent acquisition process. Now, similar to what Mahe said, I don't want you to think of level 5 as some kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator-like future where recruiters don't exist and all the decisions are being made by machines. Instead, think of something a little bit closer to like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, where the technology is really there to help augment and empower people. And instead of people having to spend a tremendous amount of time on routine, tedious tasks that just frankly aren't very rewarding, what they're able to do instead is to put the bulk of their time and energy into higher value, much more rewarding tasks. So to give you a couple of examples of what this might look like, if we were thinking about something like, say, sourcing. So if you don't mind to just leave the slides up for a second, if you wanted to think about something like sourcing for an organization that's at level 1, essentially, it's recruiters kind of using their gut feeling and manually going to job boards to post their requirements. By the time that you've gotten to something like level 3, a lot of that process could be automated, where a system is able to automatically post those job requirements to all relevant job boards. So that's kind of a look at how automation could be applied to the world of sourcing and how companies could kind of get started on that path. One more quick example. My wife's a recruiter. I know she spends the bulk of her time just trying to sort out people's schedules and find time for people to have either a face-to-face or a video interview, and it drives her nuts. That she's really living in that level 1 world right now. Well, by the time that she would get to a level 3, essentially all of that scheduling can be automated, where a candidate would be able to go in, select the different time slots that they're comfortable with, and the system would be able to read all the different interviewers' calendars, match that back to the preferences of the candidate, and automatically schedule that interview for them, saving everybody just a tremendous amount of time and headache. Now, at the bottom, what you can see is there's different types of technologies, as I said, that companies are typically adopting as they're maturing across this journey. It looks like a lot. What we've done to make the understanding where your organization is and what might be next for you a little bit easier is we've actually created a free self-assessment that will be introduced to you soon, where you'll be able to answer a quick, easy survey. You'll understand where your company is today and what next steps might look like for you. Happy to hand it back.
Thanks, Adam. That was really awesome. Much appreciated as well. So Mahe, as we are 3 hours into what is considered a pretty amazing day with rich slide content as well as explanation of what is really going on in AI in our industry, do you want to share with us kind of the 4 major areas that we announced today and talked about?
Sure, of course. So the whole point right now, today's major agenda was primarily to really give you a glimpse into what's happening in the AI and how we can use. But the 4 topics, what we really picked, we basically have in each particular topic, there is an announcement. In the career pathing, we created something called as Employee Career Framework. So how can talent management and the management can really look at the overall career framework of a company? And that is the first release what we really did. The second one is about specifically on personalization. When you think about personalization, we really looked at a couple of areas, right? One is primarily about how can you really do a global personalization sites? How can you do personalization at a benefits level? So by a person based on their track, what is that you can use the content like a CAS infrastructure to make sure all those things can be connected. That's a second announcement what we made is primarily about personalization on a global audience. The third one is about recruiter productivity. What we are creating right now is all about the recruiter dashboards. When we really say recruiter dashboard is different from a sourcer dashboard. A sourcer dashboard is different from a talent marketing dashboard. So how we can personalize for them using the more fundamental attribute called as the recruiter priority graph. And the final one is about the intelligent automation itself, how we are really announcing this for the frontline workforce so that they can streamline the overall hiring process in a much more effective and affordable way. That's the need of the hour.
There's truly something meaningful here today for anyone who joined us or is catching this in replays, because it directly impacts and benefits their employees, the candidates, the recruiters, managers, hiring managers in their organization.
See, the most important thread here is it's about understanding about where the overall talent ecosystem is evolving. We actually opened up and showed under the hood a lot more attributes than normally in the industry anybody can show. And there is a reason for it. And the reason is because we are all belongs to one community. And it's about helping people find the right job. And if we are really contributing to that, how can we all really come together as one connected family, as if we can really make a difference for every person across the globe? So that's one area where AI can really make a humongous benefit.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be an AI day if there wasn't a surprise. Now, we don't have a robot, but we do have 3 industry-changing commitments. And what you've heard today was, again, our discussion around opening the view to provide clarity and explainability around AI so you can understand and comprehend it. But what's happening in the industry is similar to other industries. HR is no different. We have professionals that need to evolve in their own careers, learn new skills, adapt new technologies, and then be able to deliver and help other people. And we understand that, and we see that. And so one of our first commitments we want to talk about is our commitment to the industry. And to the industry, we're committing to training and certifying 250,000 HR professionals by 2024. And we're going to start by doing it in the proper use of AI technology for hiring, developing, and retaining talent. And that's what the world is struggling with today. That is what our industry really needs help with.
So starting to that step is what we did today. There are parts of this particular whole presentation, what we really go through, has a lot of content which can be converted into a chunk pieces where the HR professional can take and really understand. And there is so much we are really going to create so that we'll make sure we are committed to train and certify HR professionals at a level like nobody have ever really created.
We won't stop there though. We have a commitment to our customers who are using and seeing value and impact with our platform. It's not just great, thank you for being a customer. We understand the same challenges that we're helping at an individual level the industry is struggling with, meaning our customers are still struggling. Technology is not just the key, it's the understanding of the technology in being successful at adopting the technology and applying the technology. And that's where we can help more. And so we're committing to provide existing customers $25 million in expert services to ensure that they are in fact successful in adopting AI and automation. And we're going to do that in the next 12 months.
Yeah, the most important thing what Jonathan is saying is we are here only because of our customer really believed in us and for who we are and what we can deliver. At the end of the day, if a customer buys it and if it never gets adopted, then there is no use for any particular product in today's day and age. So our commitment is to make sure people can really understand what is the real difference and how customers can benefit out of it.
And when you've seen, like we've demonstrated today, the expertise that we have and the knowledge we have of working with some of the largest companies in the world, we want to make sure other companies are seeing that same success as well. And that's what we're committed to. And then our third commit is really for prospects, for individuals who are not our customer yet, but are talking to us. And we want to prove to you, we want to show you as an organization how you can save 500,000 hours. And you're going to save it in your hiring, development, and retention practices using AI and automation. So because of the expertise, the domain expertise that we have, because of the tools and the technology that we have, we really feel we can engage with any company on this earth and help them completely change how they're doing their recruiting and change it in a way that it's saving time, money, and ultimately leading towards a better experience for everyone involved.
So we did this a couple of years back, specifically on one thing, that is candidate readiness report. We basically used to evaluate every particular Fortune 500 company and really give you where you really stand so that you have an awareness about really committing for a change. We want to do the same thing on multiple areas. So one is what we have shown for like intelligent automation space, which is primarily about like how can we give you this maturity model so you can really understand where you stand. We have the same kind of an exercise which we're really doing for what you call as career pathing. How can you really think about where is your career path for your employees as a company and how you are addressing it? So we're going to give a lot of tools and we're committed for these tools so that there is a humongous difference which you will really go through.
So for the industry, for our customers, for our prospects, we truly do thank you. We're humbled for everyone coming today, spending over 3 hours with us, interacting with us. We want to thank Phenom employees who rallied hundreds or thousands of hours just to put this presentation on, but not there. 10 years of development in innovation to bring to the market the best experiences in the world. So from the bottom of our hearts here at Phenom, we just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you all.